Chapter 1754. But then, Chen Zhao and Four's conversation, Portia couldn't understand at all. She blurted out all sorts of technical terms. Portia felt like she was listening to a book from heaven. Why are you suddenly interested in ALS? Four asked. Is it because of this mule deer? Look, I'm very caring. He went to see a patient today and encountered his biggest challenge in his career. A patient with ALS. Fei Lai walked out with a few bottles of beer. Only Chen Zhao didn't take the beer. Fei Lai knew that Chen Zhao never drank beer at work. Boss, you pricked this deer with needles. Are you sure it won't die? Don't doubt the boss's ability. Chen Zhao glanced at Portia. To be honest, this kind of treatment was too exhausting. Plus, Chen Zhao wasn't confident. Chen Zhao started putting away the needles one by one. The moment the last needle in the vagus nerve was withdrawn, the mule deer sprang up and crashed into Portia. Ah! Portia screamed in pain as she was knocked over. The mule deer continued running. It was about to hit Jerlin. In the end, a gigantic palm slapped over and sent the mule deer flying. Roar! Princess roared and bared her fangs and claws. The mule deer was so scared that it turned around and ran, burrowing into the bushes nearby. However, Mingyue Villa was full of danger. A few seconds later, the mule deer ran out of the bushes in fear. Whoosh! A series of densely packed sounds came from the underbrush. Portia was also shocked. What's in there? Why do you care so much? Drink your beer. Chen Zhao glanced at Portia and dragged the mule deer to the ground by its neck. It was a female mule deer. She was close to adulthood, but she wasn't very strong. She was probably only 60 centimeters tall, and her slender legs kept kicking. Most of the pets in the house were bigger than her. Even those that were younger than it were all extremely fierce and vicious. After all, apart from King Kong, no one in the house was vegetarian. King Kong was a vegetarian, but it had a bad temper. Even though Chen Zhao had already comforted it, it was still in a state of fear and agitation. Chen Zhao's comforting was completely useless. This place was too scary. To it, this was hell. Hua hua. Just then, a rustling sound came from the grass. Raymond hid in the bushes. Portia's scalp went numb. Boss, are there any pets in the bushes that I haven't seen before? Portia asked nervously. For some reason, Portia felt terrified. Val knew what it was. As for Portia, there were still two pets in the Bright Moon Villa that she had yet to see. One of them was King Kong. King Kong usually played in the forest behind the Sandro National Park. The other one was Raymond. After shedding his skin last time, Raymond's body had grown a little exaggerated. That was why Raymond usually didn't see any visitors. Even Portia, who came here every day, did not know that there was such a terrifying existence in the Bright Moon Villa. It's better if you don't know, Chen Zhao said, glancing at Portia. Hearing that, Portia was both scared and curious as she approached the bush. Suddenly, Portia's hand was tugged. Portia, don't look, Fei Lai said. You'll be scared. Last time, Val had been scared. That was when she'd seen Raymond's body before. If Portia, who was completely unprepared, saw Raymond, who knew how she would feel. It's okay. I'm brave, Portia said. Even she did not believe what she said. Portia finally pushed the bushes aside. She finally saw what was in the bushes. Raymond was right in front of her. And what scared her the most was that Raymond had a mule deer in his mouth. Ah! Portia was still scared, even though she'd been mentally prepared. However, the impact that Raymond had on her was too great. A colorful body, a terrifying snake head, and a scene of him eating. All of them were visually shocking. Let's get to know each other. It's called Raymond, Fei Lai said. Raymond, say hi to Portia. You've seen it before anyway. Suddenly, with a crunch, Raymond bit off half of the mule deer in his mouth and spat the other half at Portia's feet. With a thud, Portia sat on the ground. All the pets in the family were like Chen Zhao. They all had the bad habit of bullying strangers. Fei Lai went up to help Portia up. You wanted to know it. Now you're scared again. Ha. Portia could not stand up. If you don't listen, I'll feed you to Raymond. Do you understand? Chen Zhao said. I understand. Chen Zhao looked at Portia. I'm talking to the deer. Why are you talking? How is it now? Fei Lai asked. I tried to repair its motor neurons, but I don't know how it's working. Chen Zhao patted the mule deer. I need to observe it for a few days to be sure. Chen Zhao needed to see if the female mule deer would act up again. After injecting some immortal power into it, the mule deer was clearly very excited. Of course, the immortal power also expanded its senses and emotions, such as fear. However, the immortal power would not stay in its body forever. Chen Zhao wasn't sure if the motor neurons would decline again after being reactivated this time. Chen Zhao stroked the mule deer, and it gradually calmed down beside him. Boss, if there's nothing else, I'll go first. No, Chen Zhao interrupted Portia. Facing Chen Zhao's dominance, Portia could only give up. However, as long as she turned her back to the bush, she would feel goosebumps all over. She really did not understand where Chen Zhao had gotten such a scary pet. Also, wasn't he afraid that he and his family would be in danger? For the entire afternoon, Chen Zhao discussed medical knowledge with Fei Lai. Portia thought that she was highly educated and an intellectual. However, she could not even understand Chen Zhao and Fei Lai's conversation, let alone interrupt. Fei Lai, is the boss still a doctor? He's an illegal doctor. Illegal doctor? But he's so rich. I'm interested, Fei Lai said matter-of-factly. Just like how Chen Zhao would not stop her from returning to the coastal rescue team, Fei Lai would also not stop Chen Zhao from continuing to be an illegal doctor. So what if he was caught in the future? Chen Zhao had a large team of lawyers to help him get out. Chapter 1755. In the past 2 days, Chen Zhao focused all his attention on the little mule deer. In these 2 days, the little mule deer didn't get sick at all. Chen Zhao thought about it and decided to take the little mule deer to the hospital for a checkup. A regular veterinary hospital didn't have such equipment for neurological examinations, so he had to go to a regular hospital. Chen Zhao contacted Four and borrowed the hospital's equipment. The next day, Chen Zhao took the little mule deer to the hospital. Chen Zhao was already very familiar with Chantilly Hospital. After telling the director said it was fine. Director Kathiri was by Chen Zhao's side. Mr. Chen, what's wrong with your pet? Neurological disease. Chen Zhao didn't elaborate. Kathiri didn't ask. He watched as the little mule deer was sent into the ring-shaped X-ray machine in the examination room. Just then Chen Zhao's phone rang. Hi Chen, it's Alex. Yes. Do you know Rydra? Rydra? I think so. Why? Chen Zhao asked. She wants to see you, Alex said. See me? Why would she call you to see me? Chen Zhao was confused. Anyway, he didn't understand the logic behind it. His work phone was with Portia, and his personal phone was with him. He couldn't find Alex no matter what, right? Because she's in prison. What? She's in prison? What happened? Chen Zhao was confused. Wasn't she fine a few days ago? How did she end up in prison in a few days? Poison. Poison. Chen Zhao was even more confused. Who did she poison for? Ellie Rodriguez Alexander, the founder and largest shareholder of the world's largest shopping mall, the United Shopping Mall. She is currently unconscious, and her life is in danger. Once Ellie Rodriguez Alexander dies, Rydra will be charged with first-degree murder. Chen Zhao frowned. Rydra poisoned? He wasn't familiar with her, but he didn't believe that Rydra would poison someone. Does she want to see me? Yes. You didn't ask her to do it, did you? If so, you better tell me the truth, so I can help you get away with it. Fuck off. The report wouldn't be out today, so Chen Zhao sent the deer home first. Coincidentally, the prison where Rydra was being held was under the jurisdiction of Caprice. Chen Zhao greeted Caprice. Then, under Caprice's arrangement, the two met in an isolation room. When he saw Rydra again, her face was full of fatigue. It seemed that she was in a very bad state of mind these 2 days. Ms. Rydra, I heard that you wanted to see me. To be honest, I was really shocked when I heard that you were sent to prison. Tell me, what kind of grudge do you have with that Ellie Rodriguez Alexander? You actually poisoned her? Chen Zhao teased. That's right. Rydra slowly raised her head. Her eyes were filled with despair and bitterness. I didn't poison it. Do you believe me? I don't believe you. Chen Zhao didn't know Rydra very well. The few times they met, they parted on bad terms. The last time was the most peaceful they had been since they met. However, Chen Zhao did not really believe that Rydra would poison him. Of course, he didn't have any evidence to prove this. That's true. Rydra's face was filled with bitterness. You said that you didn't poison her. So why were you locked up? Because I found a mercury-like substance in the medicine that Ali Rodriguez Alexander usually takes. I also found some refining equipment in my house, as well as some medical purification elements. What kind of equipment? Equipment that I used to refine some chemical elements. What do you need that for? Rydra looked up at Chen Zhao. Don't tell me you don't have that thing in your house. I do, but I use it to make medicine. You should know my identity. What's wrong with me having that thing? Just like you. I use it for whatever you use it for. Wait, you changed professions? Chen Zhao looked at Rydra in surprise. Yes. In the past year, I've also been an illegal doctor, Rydra said. And we have the same agent. Ethan? Yes. Rydra nodded. Even if it's true, I can't prove that you didn't poison her when you called me here. I can't help you. Of course, if you want to reduce your sentence by a few years, I can recommend you a lawyer, but she's very expensive. I hope you can save Ms. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander. Can she prove your innocence? No. Even if she wakes up, she can't prove it. What's the point? You still can't get away with it. Ali Rodriguez Alexander treats me very well. I don't want her to die. Also, if she dies, I might be charged with first-degree murder. Which hospital is she in? I don't know. I'll think of a way. It's within my abilities. Thank you. Chen Zhao was about to leave, but he suddenly paused. Do you have any suspects? Rydra lowered her head and thought for a moment. The second day after you came, Ellie Rodriguez Alexander's long-lost grandson came to visit her. His name is Lohil, but he gave me a very bad feeling. Maybe I'm thinking too much. I don't have any evidence to prove that he has anything to do with this. For a family member who has been separated for 20 years to suddenly appear at this time, there is a huge problem in itself. Caprice stood outside the door. Seeing Chen Zhao come out, she went up to greet him. Finished? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. Is she your friend? Chen Zhao thought about it. Friend? She didn't seem like a friend. Sort of. When she first entered the prison, someone tried to kill her. Surprised, Chen Zhao asked who. Every criminal needs my signature when they're sent in, and then they're assigned to different cells according to their crimes. For people like her who haven't been officially sentenced, they're assigned to the outer cells. But when she came in, she was sent to prison without my signature, and she was assigned to a cell for serious criminals with serious violent tendencies. Moreover, the felon actually had a weapon in his hand. Fortunately, this woman seems to have practiced kickboxing. Otherwise, even I would have been dismissed. Help me look after her while she's here, Chen Zhao said. Yes, I will. Chapter 1756. However, there were thousands of hospitals in Los Angeles. Finding someone was like finding a needle in a haystack. Of course, this matter could be said to be difficult, but it could also be said to be easy. It all depended on whether there was a way. Hey David, help me find someone. A while later, Sharon appeared before Chen Zhao. Why did David send you here? I'll take you to the hospital where Ali Rodriguez Alexander is at. Give me the address. I can go myself. She booked the entire hospital. Can you go in without me? Saran rolled her eyes at Chen Zhao. Fuck, she's crazy. Chen Zhao had heard of booking hotels, planes and boats, but he'd never heard of booking a hospital. There were many patients coming in and out of the hospital. They couldn't chase all the other patients away just for one person, right? Fine. Sharon brought Chen Zhao to the hospital, Platinum Noble Hospital. Just from the hospital's name, Chen Zhao could smell the thick stench of capitalism. Like Chantilly Hospital, it was a private hospital. Private hospitals in America had always been much better than public hospitals. American public hospitals were naturally funded by the government. Because they weren't profit-making organizations, their conditions were naturally bad. Private hospitals, on the other hand, were mainly profit-making. Therefore, there were more investments. The more investments, the higher the fees. But unlike Chantilly Hospital catered to most patients. Anyone could live here as long as they could afford it. But Chantilly Hospital was different. It catered to the rich and powerful. This could be seen from the layout of the buildings and the environment. It wasn't big, but the environment was great. It was halfway up the mountain, half of it was green, and the other half was built. Chen Zhao could see the bay ahead. Chen Zhao came in Sharon's police car. But when he got out, the security guard scanned him with a metal detector. Sharon couldn't escape the result either. Just then a young man walked out. Lohil had 2 bodyguards beside him. Lohil had a faint smile on his face. However, his smile was also somewhat arrogant. In any case, it was very uncomfortable. "How may I help you? I'm a police officer. I want to confirm Ms. Ali Rodriguez Alexander's current situation. My grandmother is in a critical condition right now. Ever since she was poisoned, she hasn't woken up. She's currently in the intensive care unit. I don't think she has the ability to meet any guests, let alone answer your questions," Lohil said calmly. Even Saran couldn't force her way through, much less force him to cooperate. After all, the Ellie Rodriguez Alexander they were going to meet wasn't the suspect but the victim. Lohir was the only relative of Ellie Rodriguez Alexander. He now had the authority to decide whether Ellie Rodriguez Alexander would see guests. Sharon looked at Chen Zhao. Smiling, Chen Zhao walked up to Lohir and put his head near Lohir's ear. "Your body reeks of a disgusting stench." Lohil's eyelid twitched. He turned to look at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao wasn't just provoking Locker. Rather, it was because he had really abused Lot hair, which made him feel disgusted. They were completely different from the elves he knew. The elves had a kind of familiar aura. However, Lohir's aura was completely different. It was disgusting and disgusting. Chen Zhao was very sure that this person wasn't a normal person. However, Chen Zhao didn't feel any magic from him. After getting to know the elf, Chen Zhao knew that his vision was limited. If he didn't have magic, then he was a normal person. Chen Zhao returned to Sharon's side. "Let's go." Sharon glanced at Chen Zhao and returned to the police car with him. "You're giving up so easily? This isn't like you." "What's my personality? Is there something wrong with Lady Ellie Rodriguez Alexander's grandson?" Sharon asked. "He probably poisoned her," Chen Zhao said. "But I don't have evidence." This was the problem in a society ruled by law. Sometimes, you knew that there was something wrong with someone, but you still needed evidence. Even if Chen Zhao killed Lohir, Rydra wouldn't be able to get out of prison. Plus, Chen Zhao and Rydra weren't that close. If there really was evidence or some clues, Chen Zhao wouldn't mind helping. But without evidence, Chen Zhao couldn't do anything. Plus, Chen Zhao couldn't even see Ellie Rodriguez Alexander, let alone save her. On the way home, Chen Zhao called Zhang Tianyi. "Celestial Master Zhang, it's me, Chen Zhao." "Chen Zhao, what's up? I want to ask you something," Chen Zhao said. "Do you know any way to make others hate you?" "Make others hate you?" Zhang Tianyi said. "I've never heard of such a spell. I can't think of its meaning. If you really want people to hate you, just splash a spoonful of fun on yourself. I guarantee that you'll be hated by everyone." "I'm asking you seriously." "I'm serious too. Every spell has its own meaning, but I can't think of the meaning of the spell you mentioned. So I can't think of anyone who would develop it," Zhang Tianyi said. "In theory, it shouldn't be hard to develop, but what's the value and meaning of it? To make others hate you? Not really," Chen Zhao argued. "For example, when a man and a woman break up, this spell seems to be useful." "Whatever, I'm not going to bullshit with you." "Oh, did Tamamonome appear at the Tokyo Imperial Palace have anything to do with you?" "You're right if you say it has nothing to do with me. Just say it." "What do you mean it has something to do with me? I didn't ask her to go there, but she stole the 3 Japanese divine artifacts to guard against me." "Fine." Zhang Tianyi didn't dwell on this. "I'm not going to bullshit with you," Chen Zhao said. "I'll ask someone else." Since elves were born with the ability to make people feel close to them, perhaps they could find some clues. Chen Zhao planned to ask Lila Gavich and see if they could give him any clues. After hanging up with Zhang Tianyi, he called Lila Gavich. At first, Chen Zhao had some hope, but unfortunately, Lila Gavich didn't know anything either. Lila Gavich didn't give Chen Zhao any valuable clues. Wait, why did he investigate Lohil's ability? He didn't need to investigate it at all. Chapter 1757. "Chen, what do you think of mine?" "Very pretty." Chen Zhao's smile was somewhat forced. Fei Lai was going back to work with the coastal rescue team today. Let's go with this. Fei Lai didn't plan on dressing up since she was returning to the coastal rescue team. I'll go move your gift to the coastal rescue team to the car, Chen Zhao said. When Portia arrived, Chen Zhao's family set off for Angel Shore. Little Jerlin leaned against the window, while little Larissa fell asleep in Fei Lai's arms. Little Jerlin had been to Angel's Cove, but little Larissa had never been to where her mother worked. Walter wanted to go back with them, and was very excited along the way. When they arrived at Angel Beach, everyone was either carrying or hugging their bags. Fei Lai's back. Everyone in the coastal rescue team was excited. At the headquarters of the rescue team, he watched Fei Lai and the others come over. Robio went up and greeted Fei Lai with a hug. Fei Lai, welcome back. Woof, Walter barked, as if to remind everyone that he had returned. Of course not, Wanda. Robio patted Walter's head. At the same time, he turned around and said to his teammates, "Two of you, come and help Chun and the others. They brought you gifts." Several female team members came over to pick up little Jerlin and little Larissa. The male team members helped to carry the gift boxes. The staff members of the coastal rescue team were quite mobile. Chen Zhao realized that a few familiar faces had disappeared, only to be replaced by a few unfamiliar ones. Only people like Robio and Fei Lai, who truly loved this kind of work, would stay in the coastal rescue team. This is for you. Is this Coco's latest bag? I don't think it's available in North America yet. I bought it in Tokyo, Fei Lai said with a smile. Rick, this is for you. Me too. Fei Lai had brought gifts for everyone, including the new members. Everyone knew that Chen Zhao was rich. After all, most of them had been to the Bright Moon Villa before. The grandeur and luxury of the Bright Moon Villa were beyond their imagination. As usual, the female team members winked at Chen Zhao. 2 years had passed and Chen Zhao hadn't responded to them. Chen Zhao and Robio went into the office to chat. Robio, I release Fei Lai. You have to take good care of her. Don't worry. I won't let any of our team members get hurt. Of course, in Robio's eyes, Fei Lai was one of his generals. Brave, strong, passionate, kind, and unwavering in their pursuit. Of course, he also had excellent athletic ability. These were all essential requirements for a member of the coastal rescue team. Fei Lai was especially outstanding in this aspect. Of course, it didn't mean that the players who resigned didn't have such qualities. Everyone has their own pursuits, even the pressure of family and life. He couldn't ask everyone to do what Robio or Fei Lai wanted. I have one last request, Chen Zhao said. What request? I can't arrange night shifts for Fei Lai. Robio was in a difficult position. After all, Fei Lai was also a member of the team. He couldn't treat her differently, or give her preferential treatment. That would be unfair to the other members. I'll donate $10 million to the coastal rescue team. You can buy the latest equipment and improve the benefits of the members, even lifeboats. You can also renovate the headquarters and equip it with a rescue helicopter. Robio smiled bitterly. Chen Zhao had made an offer that he couldn't refuse. The coastal rescue team relied on government funding now. Their treatment was average, even lower than regular jobs. Of course, the coastal rescue team accepted donations too. $10 million would be a great help to the coastal rescue team. Fine, that's the only condition. Don't add anything else. Chen Zhao took out the check he'd prepared. This wasn't an idea that Chen Zhao had come up with on the spot. Chen Zhao had thought of this long ago. He hadn't told Fei Lai, but he didn't care if she knew. I'll have to think about how I'm going to tell the other team members. Just say that Fei Lai has to go home to take care of the kids. See, it's a perfect reason. Chen Zhao didn't stay long at the headquarters. A moment later, he left with the 2 kids and Portia. Boss, where are we going next? To the Baroness store in Beverly Hills. I'm going to buy some new clothes for Jerlin and Larissa. Portia cursed the evil capitalists in her heart. Baroness clothes all started at $10,000. Little Jerlin and Larissa were still young, but they already had their own fitting room, which was filled with their new clothes. Reincarnation was indeed a skill. Not many kids in the world could be like them. They'd lived like princesses since they were young. Boss, it's not safe to carry 2 kids in the car. My hands are safer than the baby seat, Chen Zhao said. Drive properly. They arrived at the Baroness store. Other than selling clothes, they also accepted custom orders. After Chen Zhao took out his membership card, the staff immediately went up to greet them warmly. Chen Zhao could finally put the two kids down. The staff took the two kids, helped the two children customize a few sets of clothes, then show them what they like. The staff's eyes lit up. Chen Zhao completely let go, because he felt that any clothes would look good on his kids. So he couldn't provide any effective suggestions or opinions. Just then, a group of people came to the store. The leader was Lohair, followed by 4 bodyguards. Huh. Portia was puzzled when she saw Lothier. Chen Zhao turned to Portia. What, you know him? I think I know someone, but I think he got the wrong person. Portia shook her head. Lohair walked into the store. When he saw Portia, he was also stunned. But he quickly lowered his head and left the store. Chen Zhao immediately noticed Lohair's action. He narrowed his eyes. Portia, are you sure you got the wrong person? That person does seem to know you. Strange. If it's him, he shouldn't be so young. Portia was confused. She looked at Lohair's back. His back looks similar too. Did he get plastic surgery? Does the person you're talking about look like him? Yes, but his aura seems to have changed. What about his face? Younger. Chapter 1758. Who is he to you? Chen Zhao asked. He's my high school classmate, Portia said. Portia said. But his age obviously doesn't match. He looks a few years younger than I remember. High school classmate? Is that where you went to school in New Orleans? Yes. Who else is in his family? His parents are in New Orleans. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes. Portia looked at him. Boss, why are you asking? Judging from Chen Zhao's expression, he seemed to be up to no good. Where did he go to university? I don't know. In his last year, he left New Orleans. Apparently, he ran away from home. His parents called the police to find him. Chen Zhao fell into deep thought. Plastic surgery? But what's with that strange feeling of disgust? It wasn't his personal feeling. Ryder felt it too. Why did he run away from home? He colluded with a gang outside the school and sold drugs there. He was discovered and expelled from the school. But he was underage at the time, so the police didn't file a case. Chen Zhao rubbed his chin. If that person wasn't Lohill, then what about the real Lohill? Do you know where the owner is? If he didn't move, he should be in the same neighborhood as my parents and I'll go make a call. Chen Zhao walked out and called Sam and Vicari in New Orleans. Hey Sam, do you remember me? Mr. Chen? Mr. Chen, right? Yes, it's me. Chen Zhao didn't get straight to the point. Instead, he started talking about family matters. Are you and Vicari still doing street work? No, Mr. Chen. Vicari and I used the $20,000 you left and opened a burrito shop. We feel like we've wasted our 20 years. That's good. Chen Zhao was also very satisfied. Mr. Chen, do you have something for me? I want you to ask about someone for me. Don't worry. I'm not asking you to go back to your old ways. Maddie, I met someone I knew from the past. She recognized me. Lohill said excitedly. Right now, he was no longer as calm and collected as before. After all, it was the first time, and the target was so big. Although Ali Rodriguez Alexander's name was not on the Forbes list, but she was richer than most of the Forbes top 10. If the matter was exposed, even if Ali Rodriguez Alexander was lying in a coffin, there would be a large number of people who could avenge her. I have to kill that woman. Help me, matey, you have to help me. After a while, a casual voice came from the other end of the phone. Don't worry, I'll help you. Send me her information, and where you met her. Lohair heaved a long sigh of relief. Someone had investigated New Orleans, but what about the real Lot Hill? Chen Zhao knew nothing about Lohill. How could he investigate? It seemed like he had to find a chance to meet Rydra. Now that there were clues, there was hope that Rydra could clear her name. Since that was the case, he would help them to the end. At this moment, the shop assistant came over with little Jerlin in her arms. Sir, what do you think of your daughter in this dress? Yes, very good. I'll take this one. Chen Zhao nodded. Chen Zhao spent another few $100,000 here and there. Just then Zola called. Chen, you spent $600,000 in my Beverly Hills branch? Yes, why? It's little Jerlin and Larissa's clothes, right? Yes. Didn't I say that I'll take care of any clothes you and your family need? That's right. This is your shop. Those are old models. It's okay. I'll bring little Jerlin and Larissa to Baron Mansion when I'm free. Okay. Chun Zhao and Portia each carried a child and walked out of the shop. Suddenly, Chun Zhao's shadow vision reacted. Then he threw down the bag in his hand and blocked Portia with his hand. Stunned, Portia looked at Chun Zhao in confusion. Smoke was coming from Chun Zhao's hand. Boss, what are you doing? Chun Zhao clenched his fist and retracted his hand. Nothing. I wanted to do a magic trick for you, but I failed. Boss, you're so childish. Portia was speechless. Ignoring Portia, Chun Zhao looked at the roof of the building in the distance. The sniper immediately put away his sniper rifle and hid behind cover. Damn, who's that guy? The sniper was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. He was using an anti-material sniper rifle with a 20mm caliber. How powerful was a bullet from a 20mm caliber sniper rifle? If it hit any part of the human body, the force it carried could tear the body apart. Even if it was just a scratch, it would be fatal. If it was shot at a reinforced concrete wall, it could directly penetrate 80 centimeters and leave a bowl-sized hole in the wall. This was already more than some small caliber shells could penetrate. But this terrifying power was actually blocked by a single hand. The sniper had never experienced something like this before. He felt like it was a dream. No, I can't stay here. If that person discovers my location, I'm dead. The sniper didn't think that he could fight against a monster who could catch a bullet with one hand. Just then, the sniper suddenly heard a whoosh behind him. The sniper suddenly raised his gun and pointed behind him. He realized that there was a seabird behind him. It was a seagull the size of a pigeon. It was a false alarm. The sniper put down his rifle. But just then, the seagull suddenly pounced at the sniper. Ah! The sniper waved his arms and kept retreating. He wanted to catch the seagull, but he couldn't. The seagull had already scratched the sniper's face into a bloody mess. The sniper kept retreating. Suddenly, he felt something touch the back of his foot. Then, the seagull suddenly bumped into the sniper's forehead. The sniper lost his balance and fell out of the building. Ah! The sniper instantly lost his balance. Thud! Boss, what happened over there? Why do you care so much? Drive home, Chun Zhao said. Boss, did someone say that you're boring? Someone once said that, but I made him go bankrupt. Oh, what did you say just now? Ha! Nothing. Portia looked at Chun Zhao in the back seat and cursed him silently. Divine King of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 1759. Damn it. Matey looked at the body on the ground. He'd sent the sniper. But now the sniper had fallen from the building. It was obvious who did it. Matey immediately called back. Loher, the situation has changed. Kill that old woman tonight. We can't delay any longer. But the hospital is full of surveillance cameras, even in the ward. I don't have a chance at all. Loher was also nervous. Didn't we plan to wait for the old woman's poison to act up? The doctor already said that her organs are failing, and she'll die in 3 days. Why do we have to take the risk? The assassin I sent to kill that woman died. They came prepared. There's someone else behind that woman. If they find out who you are, all our plans will be in vain. Their plan was nothing more than to seize Elie Rodriguez Alexander's property. Loher was the key to this plan. Once his identity was exposed, all the plans would be in vain. You shouldn't have gone out. After 3 days, when that old woman dies, you can do whatever you want. Why do you have to go out now? Then where should I be? In front of that dead old woman in the hospital? Loher retorted. You can have fun outside with the money I give you. Why should I stay in the hospital and not go anywhere? Alright, the most important thing now is to kill that woman, or directly kill that old woman. I have no choice. If I do anything, I won't be able to escape the hospital's surveillance. Loher had an idea. Do it yourself. Then remove all the bodyguards around that old woman, and replace them with our people. Those bodyguards won't listen to me at all. You're the only legal heir now. Why won't they listen to you? If they don't listen to you, just fire them. I'll try. You also think of a way to kill my high school classmate. As long as she's here, I'll be exposed sooner or later. On the way home, Chen Zhao called Risfar. Of all the people Chen Zhao knew, Risfar had the widest connections. Risfar, do you know Ali Rodriguez Alexander? You mean the founder of the United Mall, Ellie Rodriguez Alexander? Yes, that's her. I guess so. What's wrong? She had a grandson by her side. And then she was poisoned and sent to the hospital. Do you know about this? Is that so? Risfar said. I don't know. I'm not familiar with her. I've only seen her a few times at banquets and chatted with her. Can you find out about her grandson's information? The more comprehensive, the better. Sure. Risfar agreed to Chen Zhao's request right away. He didn't beat around the bush at all. He didn't even ask why Chen Zhao wanted to get involved in this. Portia drove in silence. She always felt that Chen Zhao's actions were inexplicable. He didn't do any serious work either. He was either inquiring about this or that. Just then, a large truck that was going against the traffic suddenly crossed the center line and charged toward Chen Zhao's car. Portia was so scared that she forgot to turn the steering wheel. Looking at the truck, Chen Zhao grabbed the steering wheel. The car swerved at an unbelievable angle and narrowly avoided the truck. Portia stepped on the brakes, and the car stopped by the roadside. Just then, the truck's cargo box suddenly opened. A few gunmen with automatic rifles rushed out of the container and walked toward Chen Zhao's car. Thud thud, ah! Portia screamed in terror. But after a while, Portia realized that she was completely unharmed. The bullets hit the car window and the car, but they didn't go through. Boss! This! Portia turned around and saw Chen Zhao's calm expression. Let me drive. Chen Zhao was very confident in his car's bulletproof function. The car wasn't just modified normally. It had been modified internally by the supernatural organization. Technology and magic made it as strong as an armored car. Even a small caliber cannon couldn't hurt the passengers in the car. Chen Zhao switched seats with Portia. He stepped on the accelerator and turned the steering wheel. He turned around and rammed the car into the gunman. This was the coastal highway. There wouldn't be a single car passing by in an entire day. Portia was scared out of her wits. She thought that Chen Zhao would just drive away. But Chen Zhao didn't. Instead, he turned around and rammed into the gunman. Only one gunman was sent flying. The others all dodged. Chen Zhao's expression remained calm. The gunman hid by the roadside and continued shooting at the car. Chen Zhao turned the car and said to Portia, "Look after little Jerlin and Larissa. Call the police." "Boss, what are you doing?" Chen Zhao twisted his neck. Portia suddenly had a bad feeling. Before she could speak, Chen Zhao had already opened the door and alighted. Then, the gunshots outside became even more intense. Portia's face paled. She covered her ears, her face filled with terror. Ah! A scream came from outside. Portia shuddered. Then another scream came from outside. A few seconds later, there was another scream. Help! Help! Ah! The continuous screams terrified Portia. But after the fifth scream, the outside seemed to fall into complete silence. Crack! Portia heard the door open and screamed in fear. "Portia, did you call the police?" Boss. You. Did you call the police?" "No, boss. Outside. It's fine now," Chen Zhao said calmly. Portia looked up and saw a few people stacked together in the rearview mirror. Portia's face paled. "Boss, you killed them all?" Portia didn't know how Chen Zhao did it. She was filled with nothing but fear. She never thought that she would be attacked like this. No one died. They're all alive," Chen Zhao said nonchalantly. "Forget it. I'll call the police myself." Chen Zhao picked up his phone and called David. "David, I was attacked by gunmen on the coastal highway. I took them all down. There are 7 of them. 1 is heavily injured and 6 are lightly injured." Chen Zhao's so-called lightly injured referred to the few who had their hands broken. The heavily injured ones were run over by Chen Zhao. Chapter 1760. Angel Coast. Are you sure nothing will happen to Chen taking care of 2 kids by himself? Chen can solve any problem. I trust him, Fei Lai said in a trusting tone. Okay, I hope nothing will happen to him, Robio said. Oh, you know that Chen is going to donate to the coastal rescue team, right? No, Fei Lai didn't really care. But she also knew that Chen Zhao's goal was to make her life better. When Portia got out of the car, her legs were weak. She went to the shooters. The gunmen were indeed not dead, but their hands were all twisted and deformed. They were piled up by Chen Zhao in layers. Screams could be heard. Portia looked at Chen Zhao. He was standing in front of the car, holding little Jerlin and Larissa. The car was full of bullet holes, but none of them penetrated the car. Portia was really scared to death. She didn't even see how Chen Zhao had killed the 6 shooters. In any case, it didn't take long before they heard screams coming from outside. Every time, she thought that Chen Zhao had been shot. In the end, Chen Zhao was fine. Instead, the 6 shooters were all beaten to the ground. Just then police sirens sounded. Police cars arrived one after another. David and Sharon got out of the car and looked at the shooters on the ground. "Chen, are you okay?" David was still worried about Chen Zhao. Sharon looked at the shooters and then at Chen Zhao's car. "Good thing you didn't drive a convertible," Sharon said. "How did you kill them?" "Ask them yourself." Chen Zhao handed the 2 kids to Portia. Then he pulled Portia and David. "David, come here for a second." "What is it?" Seeing Chen Zhao's mysterious look, David couldn't help but regret it. If he knew, he wouldn't have led the team himself. When he heard that Chen Zhao had been shot, he came here in fear. He only realized when he got here. His worry was completely unnecessary. He could tell from the shooter's pitiful looks. Chen Zhao definitely wouldn't be the one injured. It would be the shooters. Judging from Chen Zhao's expression, he was probably going to do something difficult for her again. "Do me a favor," David asked. "It's nothing." Chen Zhao smiled at David. "It can't be a small matter for you to ask me for help." David looked at him warily. "What are you guys talking about? So secretive." Sharon moved closer to the 2. "Fuck off. Don't eavesdrop on us." Chen Zhao pushed Sharon away, but Sharon was determined not to leave. She felt that staying with Chen Zhao was more interesting. She had been a police officer for so long, but she had never encountered such an exciting gunfight. Maybe they could get into another thrilling gunfight if they stayed with Chen Zhao. If Sharon didn't leave, Chen Zhao wouldn't speak. "Chen, just tell the captain." "I won't leak it," Sharon promised. "But whatever you're going to do, you have to bring me along." Chen Zhao didn't speak. David glanced at Chen Zhao. "Tell me, it's not your first day with Sharon." "This isn't legal," Chen Zhao said. "Are you sure you want me to tell you? Is it related to the gunman?" Sharon asked. "Yes." Chen Zhao nodded. "Tell us what it is first," David said seriously. "Then we'll decide if we should help you or not." Chen Zhao looked around. Finally, he decided to speak. Police sirens could be heard outside Platinum Noble Hospital. As soon as Lohir heard the sirens, he was frightened. Then a bodyguard ran in. "Boss, a few police officers are looking for you. Can't you just tell them that I'm not here?" Just then David, Sharon, Chen Zhao, and Portia walked over with their chests puffed out. "Mr. Jeff Ryder, you're under arrest for poisoning, fraud, and murder for hire." David took out an arrest warrant. "This is the arrest warrant." Lohir's face was drained of blood. No, more accurately, he was called Jeff Ryder. Jeff Ryder's mind went blank when he saw Portia behind David. Suddenly, Jeff's mind went blank. He turned around and ran. Everyone chased after him. Jeff charged into a ward. When they rushed into the ward, Jeff Ryder was pointing a gun at Ellie Rodriguez Alexander on the bed. "Get out, all of you, or I'll shoot. If you don't want this old woman to die, get out." Jeff stared at everyone with bloodshot eyes. "Jeff Ryder, you can't run. Put the gun down." To be honest, neither Chen Zhao nor David expected this. Jeff Ryder was so useless that he'd run away after taking out the arrest warrant. In Chen Zhao's original plan, David and Sharon needed to send Jeff Ryder to the police station and then slowly trick him into talking. In the end, he'd self-destructed so easily. Based on his current actions, Chen Zhao was sure that his guess was correct. He'd brought Portia here to let Jeff know that his identity had been exposed. Portia still didn't understand what was going on. "Jeff Ryder, you can't run." Chen Zhao strolled into the room with a faint smile on his face. Get out, get out. Don't come in. Get out." As if he hadn't heard Jeff, Chen Zhao stood before the bed and looked at him. "I told you you can't run." How could Jeff Ryder not know? But he didn't want to give up just like that. He wasn't satisfied either. His fortune was already within reach. But in the blink of an eye, he'd lost everything. Suddenly, Jeff Ryder turned to Portia. "It's all your fault. You bitch, it's all your..." Jeff suddenly pointed his gun at Portia. Portia's mind went blank for a moment. But the moment Jeff raised his gun, Chen Zhao had already reached Jeff. Chen Zhao was already in front of Jeff Ryder. His gun was raised. Bang! Portia saw a bullet hole in the wall behind her. She'd almost fallen to the ground. Ah! Chen Zhao directly broke Jeff's arm. "David, wait for me outside for a few minutes," Chen Zhao said and tossed Jeff to the door. "Okay, hurry up. Help Portia too. Her legs are a bit weak. Too bad there's no gunfight." Sharon had come to this because she'd hoped for an intense gunfight. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. Nothing happened. Chapter 1761. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander's condition was more serious than he had imagined. Her internal organs were all failing. Chen Zhao first cut off the surveillance. Then he poured a bottle of perfect crystal potion. Next, he pulled up Ali's palm and injected some immortal power into it. He used brute force to force out the poison. He couldn't wait for the slow process. It could be said that Ellie Rodriguez Alexander could die at any time. So they could either endure it or be killed by Chen Zhao's immortal power. Chen Zhao poured her a bottle of perfect crystal potion to keep her alive. Large amounts of black poison started seeping out of Ali's skin. Immortal power was good, but it didn't mean everyone could handle it. Seeing that it was enough, Chen Zhao packed up and left. David saw Chen Zhao come out. "How is it?" "Looks like that Ellie Rodriguez Alexander is lucky. She probably won't die." Chen Zhao glanced at Jeff Ryder. "Are you disappointed? Don't lie to me. That old woman is dead for sure. The doctor already announced her death date." "Idiot." Sharon glanced at Jeff Ryder. "What good does Ellie Rodriguez Alexander's death do for you? If she's not dead, at least you won't be sentenced to death. If she's dead, you're dead for sure." "He's not actually stupid," Chen Zhao said. "Do you think that Ellie Rodriguez Alexander will let him go after she wakes up? He also killed Ali's grandson and impersonated her. No matter how you look at it, he's dead for sure." Instantly, Jeff's face turned ashen. Yes, no matter how you looked at it, Jeff was dead for sure. After pushing Jeff into the police car, everyone left. But before long, Chen Zhao suddenly spoke. "Sharon, the gunfight you've been waiting for is almost here." David glanced at the rearview mirror. He didn't see anything wrong. "Chun, is there someone following us?" "There's something wrong with the white MPV and the big truck." "I'll call for backup," David said. "Drive to the outskirts." "Why?" "These people are either here to save him or to kill him." Pointing at Jeff Ryder, Chen Zhao said. "And from the looks of it, they won't stop until they get what they want. Do you want to fight them in the city? Are you confident?" "Feel I should be off work now," Chen Zhao said. "I'm in a hurry to go home too. I'll take the coastal road. It's on the way." Everyone in the car was speechless. David asked again, "Are you sure there's no problem?" Shalon had already taken out her gun, checking that it was loaded and loaded. There was some excitement on her face, as well as a trace of fear, but it was well concealed. "Boss, I want a raise or I'll resign." Portia wanted to cry. It clearly had nothing to do with him, so why was he involved in this gunfight? "Okay, when you hand me your resignation letter, remember to include your repayment plan." Portia's face was covered in tears. When the car reached the coastal highway, there were no other cars along the way. David asked, "Do we need to stop?" "No need." Chen Zhao suddenly opened the car door and disappeared into the night. Seeing Chen Zhao jump out of the car at a high speed, Portia went crazy. Shalon was also shocked. "Chin will be fine, right?" "Captain, how fast are you going?" 100 miles per hour. Boom. Just then, there was a huge sound from behind. The white SUV that had been following them all the way suddenly rolled over and landed on the road. The truck quickly braked and stopped. The people in the driver's and co-driver's seats were about to get out, but Chen Zhao knocked them out with a metal pipe. Then he quickly went to the back of the truck, strung the metal pipe together and bent it. Bang, bang, bang. The people in the truck kept knocking on the door, but they couldn't come out at all. Just then, David's police car arrived before Chen Zhao. "Chen, it's over," Chen Zhao said. Remember to let me know if you get anything from them. Shalon was furious. It was rare for her to have a gunfight. In the end, Chen Zhao cut the Gordian knot. She didn't even understand what had happened. Chen Zhao had already taken care of everything. Chen, how did you take care of the white SUV? Shalon asked, confused. Chen Zhao clearly didn't have a gun, and he couldn't charge into a speeding car. So, Shalon didn't understand how Chen Zhao had flipped the car. I used a rock to knock out the driver of the SUV, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. I think I smashed his head. Shalon and David were speechless. They'd thought that it would be a tough battle. In the end, Chen Zhao took care of it so easily. Portia knew that her boss was strong and good at fighting. After all, Chen Zhao had already proven it during the day. He could easily take care of a few armed killers. But this time, it was even more exaggerated. It was like he was playing. The police backup is here, right? They're already on their way. Clearly, Jeff Ryder wasn't the only one behind this. He definitely had a team behind him. However, Chen Zhao wasn't interested in who the mastermind was. Chen Zhao was more interested in where Jeff Ryder's disgusting feeling came from. He hoped that Risfar's investigation would help him figure it out. Of course, the most direct way was to find out from Jeff Ryder himself. But Jeff Ryder was dead for sure. So they definitely wouldn't cooperate with the police. Ring ring. The alarm in the ICU rang loudly. More than a dozen doctors and nurses rushed to the intensive care unit. However, when they arrived at the ICU, they found that Ellie Rodriguez-Alexander was already sitting on the bed. All the medical staff looked at Ellie Rodriguez-Alexander in disbelief. How was it possible? Wasn't she going to die? How could she suddenly wake up? Was this her final radiance before death? It might really be her final radiance before death. After all, they knew very well how serious Ellie Rodriguez-Alexander's condition was. Ellie Rodriguez-Alexander slowly looked at the doctors and nurses blocking the door. Who can tell me what happened? Where am I now? Ms. Alexander, you're in Platinum Noble Hospital. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 1762. The attending doctor, caretaker, and nurse looked at each other. Are you sure you got the right report? Yes, Ms. Alexander is the only one in the hospital recently. We can't have the wrong report. Platinum Noble Hospital only accepted a small number of patients. It was known for the most professional medical skills, the most advanced equipment, and the best service. They accepted no more than 10 patients at a time. But each patient cost at least $500,000. I just changed Ms. Alexander's bed sheets, the head nurse said. There was a black substance on the sheets. I sent it to the lab for testing too. It's all poison. It looks like Ms. Alexander's body expelled it automatically. But how is that possible? How can her skin expel poison? After Ms. Alexander washed up, I did a preliminary examination on her. Ms. Alexander's originally failing organs are actually very normal. It doesn't look like the failure before today. Oh, what about the surveillance? Did the surveillance find anything wrong? The surveillance only stopped when the police came in to arrest her. Then, one of the police entered the room, and the surveillance was physically cut off. Ellie Rodriguez-Alexander sat in the garden of the hospital with 4 bodyguards standing beside her. Ellie Rodriguez-Alexander's expression was calm. Boss, that's what happened. So it wasn't Rydra who poisoned her but my fake grandson. Yes, he tried to separate the 4 of us. If the police didn't come, he would have done it to you yesterday. Is there any other information? Then is there any news about the real Lohil? After his father passed away 2 years ago, he dropped out of school. Since then, he hasn't appeared in front of outsiders. However, through our connections in England, we showed the photo of the imposter to young Master Lohil's former classmates. They all confirmed that the young Master Lohil in the photo is a fake, and New Orleans has also confirmed that the imposter's real name is Jeff Ryder. What about my physical condition? Everything is good, at least according to the hospital report, the bodyguard said. You said that I was about to die, right? Yes, boss. We sent your previous report to other hospitals. The answer was the same. It's very dangerous. Almost all your organs are failing. Is it the hospital treatment? Boss, the doctor you hired came to the hospital twice. The second time he came, he stayed in your ward alone for about 5 minutes. Is that doctor that Asian? Yes. So have you found out anything about him? So far, we only know that he's an illegal doctor. He's a professor at the University of California, Los Angeles, and he's rich. Is there any more information? We still need to continue investigating. Bring Rydra out. She's been wrong these past few days. Bring her here. Rydra had already lost all hope. He had been waiting in prison for so many days. Chen Zhao didn't reply to her either. Rydra thought that Chen Zhao hadn't helped at all, but he didn't expect her to be released so soon. The person who brought her out was Ellie Rodriguez Alexander's bodyguard. When Rydra was brought in front of Ellie Rodriguez Alexander, she became nervous again. Rydra, come sit beside me. Ms. Alexander, take this check. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander pushed a check in front of Rydra. Rydra originally wanted to pretend to be virtuous, but after seeing the number on the check, she obediently accepted the check. How do you know Mr. Chen? I want to hear more details. Before we first met, I was the health consultant for Mr. Rasfa, the CEO of PLM Film Company. At that time, Mr. Rasfa's health condition was very poor. The hospital had even sent out a death notice. It wouldn't take more than 3 days. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander listened to Rydra's words calmly. He gave Mr. Rasfa some strange-looking medicine, and then Mr. Rasfa, who had been sentenced to death, survived? Yes. I saw him a few times later. He was very healthy. You can never imagine that he's an old man in his 70s. Rydra was a proud person, but she had to let go of her pride in this aspect. His medical skills are better than mine, so I recommended him to you. Help me look at this. This is my examination report. Rydra took the report and looked at it back and forth for a long time. This is. Rydra looked at Ellie Rodriguez Alexander. Ms. Alexander, are you sure you didn't take the wrong one? I didn't. You're very healthy. Mr. Chen stayed in my room for 5 minutes, but the surveillance didn't record what he did in the room. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander looked at Rydra. I heard that you saw him when you were in prison. Rydra nodded. She couldn't hide this. So, she told the truth directly to Ellie Rodriguez Alexander. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander nodded. In that case, you should be the one who saved me. I don't dare. Actually, I just want to clear my name. The older one got, the more afraid they were of death. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander was no exception, especially when she had such a huge amount of wealth. No one was willing to die willingly. However, death was fair to everyone. It didn't matter how rich the person was. Do you know where he lives? I don't know, but my agent knows. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander looked at Rydra in surprise. After I met him, I suffered a huge blow. So, I gradually changed from a simple health consultant to an illegal doctor. Then, I found his agent and asked him to be my agent too. I feel that I need to contact more different kinds of patients to improve my professional skills. Then help me ask where Mr. Chen lives, Ellie Rodriguez Alexander said. I want to thank him. Chapter 1763. Failai went to work. She knew what had happened last night. On her way back, she saw the police blockade on the highway. Of course, she didn't say anything. If she opened her mouth, Chen Zhao would definitely take advantage of her. It was her first day at work, and then something like this happened at home. Chen Zhao had even more reason to let her stay at home. Then Portia came. Portia didn't seem to be in a good state. What she'd experienced yesterday had given her nightmares for the whole night. Only someone like Chen Zhao could ignore what had happened yesterday. To him, it seemed like a normal meal. Portia, do you want something to eat? Portia sat down and turned her anger into appetite. However, she clearly overestimated her appetite. She was probably the only one who was full from eating breakfast. Holding her stomach, Portia lay on the sofa, not wanting to move at all. Boss, who are those people? Portia asked. Will they attack us again? Don't worry. They're not interested in you. That's good. Portia heaved a sigh of relief. You have no money, no face and no body. Those gunmen must be blind to cause trouble for you. Mr. Bo too, our people failed. Now they're all in prison, Mehdi said, gritting his teeth. Sitting in front of Mehdi was a black man. This black man had thin limbs and looked malnourished. He wore colorful clothes, and his head was disproportionately big. One of Botu's hands was holding a wooden staff, and the tip of the staff was inlaid with a black skull. A sinister aura filled the entire room. There was a heavy stench in the air. Botu slowly opened his eyes. I don't care about the others, but you have to bring Jeff Ryder to me. But he's in prison now, Matey said, troubled. I don't have enough people. Botu waved his staff. The black skull spat out a gust of black gas, which spread above Matey's head. Matey was instantly enveloped by the black gas. He started struggling in pain, continuously spitting out large amounts of filthy black substance. A human figure slowly formed in the black substance. It was as tall and sturdy as Matey. Then the second figure took shape, followed by the third, the fourth. Only then did Matey stop vomiting and slowly recover. I'll grant you Shadow. You can lead the Shadow Army and bring Jeff Ryder back to me, Botu said. Go. Don't make me wait too long. David, what's up? Chen Zhao received David's call. Chen, the situation is a bit complicated. After a night of interrogation, Jeff Ryder revealed some unusual information. It seems to be related to people from the spiritual world. Someone from the spirit world. When Chen Zhao heard this, he wasn't that surprised. In fact, Chen Zhao had already guessed it. He said that in their group, there's actually a great wizard from Africa called Botu. He's been hiding in the shadows all this while. He also said that this great wizard from Africa will definitely rescue him. What do you plan on doing? Chen Zhao asked. David had helped him a lot. If David asked, then he would definitely not refuse. I hope you can help, David said. No problem, Chen Zhao agreed readily. What do you need me to do? This was also what gave David a headache. He understood the spirit world, and he knew that Chen Zhao was in his hands as insurance. But how could he use Chen Zhao? David didn't have any ideas now. He didn't know much. Even the fact that this was related to the supernatural world was his own guess. How about this? Chen Zhao said. If there's a prison break, notify me immediately. I'll go and help you immediately. Speaking of which, Chen Zhao also wanted to know who was behind Jeff Ryder. More accurately, he was interested in the person who'd cast that strange spell on Jeff Ryder. Yes, that's fine. David didn't have any more clues now. This was the only arrangement for now. Just as David hung up, a group of people came in. A young and pretty woman walked in. Hi, you're David, right? I'm Vestana. Who are you? David looked at the woman before him. I'm from the secret department. I'm going to take Jeff Ryder out now. Secret department? Show me your ID, David said. It was impossible for anyone to run up to him and say that they were from the secret department and then take a criminal out. Moreover, it was a criminal. No ID, Vestana said. Ms. Vestana, are you joking with me? David sneered. You can call your director, Vestana said expressionlessly. David frowned and picked up the phone suspiciously. Hello, director, there's a group of people here. They say that they're from the secret department. They want to take the criminal I brought back yesterday. Do as they say, and try to cooperate with them. I can't tell you the details. The director's answer was simple. Vestana's lips curled. How is it? David took a deep breath. Although he was a little unwilling. He didn't want to give up. But the woman before him, and the secret department behind her clearly had more authority than him. Go take the criminal yourself, David said, unwilling to give up. Thank you for your cooperation. Vestana turned and left. David picked up the phone again. Hey Chen, the situation has changed. I don't think you need to get involved anymore. What? Did you catch the mastermind? No, Jeff Ryder was taken by another department. I think it's also a department that deals with supernatural incidents. Oh, forget it. That's good too. It's better if you don't get involved. It won't do you any good. Chen Zhao had a general idea. After all, in L.A., only the supernatural organization and the psionic team could deal with supernatural incidents with the help of the government. Since it wasn't the supernatural organization, it had to be the psionic team. Just then the butler spoke. Master, 3 cars with unfamiliar license plates have entered Mingyue Villa. Are you allowed to enter? Chen Zhao looked at the projection on the wall. Of the 3 cars, 2 were black commercial cars, and the one in the middle was a high-end luxury car. The 2 cars seemed to be the guards of the car in the middle. They didn't look like they were here to cause trouble. Put down the barrier and let them in, Chen Zhao said. Chapter 1764. There was a mechanical barricade at the entrance to prevent uninvited guests from entering Mingyue Villa. Sometimes, passers-by who got lost would ask for directions at the door. Chen Zhao would definitely not invite such people in. At most, he would talk to them through the loudspeaker at the door and give them directions. And some uninvited guests were really uninvited guests. There were also people who wanted to come in and cause trouble. Chen Zhao never showed mercy to these people. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander rolled down the window. Fresh air flowed into the car. The air here was too good. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander felt invigorated. Rydra was also in disbelief. But she was shocked by Chen Zhao's family business. In her impression, Chen Zhao was still the illegal doctor from before. Ethan introduced clients to Chen Zhao and her. Most of the clients she accepted were middle to low level. On the other hand, Chen Zhao accepted high-level clients. Rydra had no objections to this. After all, she knew that her medical skills weren't as good as Chen Zhao's. But she didn't expect the difference in their values to be so huge. Since there were strangers, the car obviously wouldn't be parked in the garage. The 3 cars parked in the open-air parking lot. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander loved everything here. The environment here, the scenery here, all of them were breathtaking. With Rydra's help, Ellie Rodriguez Alexander strolled toward the villa. Suddenly, Ellie Rodriguez Alexander heard the sound of children playing. Under a big tree in the middle of the lawn, 2 babies were sitting on the backs of a mountain gorilla and a brown bear. Whether it was the mountain gorilla or the brown bear, they were both astonishingly large. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander's 4 bodyguards all took out their guns and pointed at the 2 beasts. In their eyes, the 2 were both ferocious beasts that could kill people. Everyone, please put down your weapons. Just then Chen Zhao walked out. It's rude to take out weapons when you're a guest. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander waved her hand, indicating for the bodyguards to put down their weapons. Mr. Chen, I'm sorry for my subordinate's impudence. Ms. Alexander, please come in. Chen Zhao was surprised by Ellie Rodriguez Alexander's visit. The kids over there, they're my daughters. Chen Zhao looked at little Jerlin and Larissa, and couldn't help but smile happily. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander looked at King Kong and Princess. To be honest, their sizes were really scary. When they passed the living room, Ellie Rodriguez Alexander saw Portia lying on the sofa. Is that your wife? No, she's my assistant. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander frowned slightly. She seems to be very free. She had too much breakfast. Please sit. Chen Zhao arranged for Ellie Rodriguez Alexander to sit on a chair in the yard. There was wind and scenery in the courtyard. Today, the sun was shining brightly and the sky was clear. This was the best place to look at the sea. Chen Zhao's wife, Rydra said. Mr. Chen, Rydra said. Miss Alexander isn't feeling well. I'm afraid it's not convenient for her to be exposed to the wind. Chen Alexander. Glancing at Rydra, Chen Zhao said calmly, if I think Miss Alexander isn't suitable for the wind, I'll invite her inside. Rydra stopped talking, but she was still worried about Ellie Rodriguez Alexander's health. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander smiled and waved her hand. It's very comfortable here, Mr. Chen. I'm not trying to flatter you. I've never felt so comfortable here before. Mr. Chen, are you selling this manor? Hee. Many of my friends have asked me this question. What Chen Zhao was implying was that he didn't sell it even though so many of his friends wanted to buy it. Mr. Chen, is it my imagination? I feel like I'm indescribably comfortable here. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander looked at him in confusion. You're right. Maybe it has something to do with the layout here. With only one family living in such a big place, won't they feel lonely? No, my family and I like this kind of quiet environment. If we're bored, we'll find our friends to play with or invite them over. Do you want some wine? Chen Zhao asked. Can I drink it? Ellie Rodriguez Alexander wasn't questioning, but more like asking. At my place, you can eat and drink anything without worry. I haven't been able to eat and drink freely in a long time. Please wait. Smiling, Chen Zhao stood up and entered. He kicked Portia to the ground. Get up and help me get some food and wine. Portia rubbed her stomach, which was no longer full, and glanced outside. Ellie Rodriguez Alexander and Chen Zhao sat opposite each other. When Portia came out with the nameless wine, Ali Rodriguez Alexander's eyes brightened. I have some in my manor too, but I rarely drink it. I only take it out for guests during banquets. The bodyguard poured wine for Ali Rodriguez Alexander and Chen Zhao. Just then, the little deer came over, following the fragrance. It extended its mouth to Ali Rodriguez Alexander, as if it wanted the wine too. Mr. Chen. This. Ali Rodriguez Alexander couldn't help but touch the deer. Sorry, Portia took it away. It's okay. I really like this little guy. Let it stay with me. Ali Rodriguez Alexander said, smiling. Everything here made her feel comfortable. Even the little mule deer in front of her gave her an inexplicable sense of intimacy. Mr. Chen, thank you for saving me. Otherwise, my old bones would be in the coffin. It's just a problem that I can solve. Chen Zhao said it lightly, but Ali Rodriguez Alexander didn't think so. Before coming here, Ali Rodriguez Alexander had confirmed with the hospital in Rydra again. She'd really been on the verge of death. The hospital couldn't do anything. According to the hospital, the only thing that could save Ali Rodriguez Alexander was God. But Chen Zhao only used 5 minutes to solve a problem that even the most professional doctors and the most advanced equipment couldn't solve. Thus, Ali Rodriguez Alexander was more and more convinced that Ryder's recommendation was correct. Chapter 1765. Go get a few boxes of beer, Chen Zhao said to Ali's bodyguard. Oh, help me set up 2 grills. The bodyguard looked at Ali Rodriguez Alexander. Go. Mr. Chen's words are my words. Ali looked at Chen Zhao. Do you know that I haven't had barbecue in 10 years? Ms. Alexander's body. Rydra knew that Chen Zhao would know what to do, but she was Ali's health consultant after all. She had to be responsible for Ali's health. For someone as rich as Ali, she had to be responsible for her health. A nutritionist was in charge of all her meals. She had the same function as a sports nutritionist. It's fine, Ali said calmly. It's okay to indulge once in a while. Of course, this was also because she trusted Chen Zhao. The bodyguard and Portia were busy. Portia would complain every time. She was a personal assistant, not a maid. But when it came to eating, she ate more than anyone else. Soon, Ali Rodriguez Alexander's appetite was piqued. Chen Zhao's food couldn't be bought outside. Little Jerlin, little Larissa, and a group of pets all came over. At first, the bodyguards were careful. But soon, they realized that the pets weren't aggressive at all. For example, Princess knew how to put the barbecue skewers on the grill. She even pointed at the seasoning, and didn't want what she wanted. Mr. Chen, can I eat like this at home too? Ali Rodriguez Alexander was having a good time eating. No. Chen Zhao shook his head. My ingredients are different. Where did you get your ingredients? Ali Rodriguez Alexander asked. They're illegal. If you need them, I can give you some, but I'm afraid I can't provide the channels, Chen Zhao said. Ali Rodriguez Alexander didn't ask any further. She knew some things better than others, but she had to admit that the barbecue ingredients were all precious. I think Marina's restaurant provides this crab meat too, but it's cooked differently. Ali looked at Chen Zhao confused. Marina's restaurant is my property. It's yours, Mr. Chen. No wonder. Ali Rodriguez Alexander had been to Marina's several times. She had also questioned the manager of the restaurant, trying to find out the source of the ingredients for Marina's restaurant. The result was the same, so it was Chen Zhao's property. Give me 2 skewers of grilled squid. The bodyguard immediately brought 2 skewers to Ali Rodriguez Alexander. What does Mr. Chen mainly do? Ali Rodriguez Alexander asked. She did not believe that an illegal doctor could earn such a huge net worth. Looking at the super yacht at the bottom of the cliff, it would cost around $100 million. Beer factory, Chen Zhao said indifferently. Produce and sell beer. Ali Rodriguez Alexander suddenly looked around. All the beer Chen Zhao provided was mountain beer. Ali Rodriguez Alexander immediately understood. By then, she would know about Dashan beer, and how popular Dashan beer was in North America. If it weren't for the limited production, Dashan beer would probably be the best-selling beer in North America. That made more sense. Ali Rodriguez Alexander suddenly looked at Chen Zhao. So Daydream also belongs to Mr. Chen? Mara Supermarket had already announced that the owner of Dashan beer was the brewer of Daydream. Ali Rodriguez Alexander also knew that some people in LA used an extremely expensive wine for their parties. It seemed to also come from the brewer of Daydream. Apparently, each bottle cost 2 to 3 million USD. It was called Purple Brew. However, Ali had never had the chance to taste it. Mr. Chen, do you sell Purple Brew? I don't, but I can give you 2 bottles. Chen Zhao had always only provided Purple Brew to a few friends. He'd only sold 1 or 2 bottles in the beginning. Most of the time, it was in the form of gifts. It was also extremely rare in the market. Therefore, Chen Zhao did not want to open this door. If he sold it this time, Chen Zhao would have no reason to reject Ali Rodriguez Alexander when she came to buy it. Mr. Chen, 1 bottle costs 2 to 3 million, right? It's worth a few million to wine lovers, but to me it's just a gift. After lunch, Ali Rodriguez Alexander left. Ms. Alexander, you didn't say anything. Rydra looked at Ali Rodriguez Alexander in confusion. Ali Rodriguez Alexander smiled. No need. What Ali Rodriguez Alexander needed was not a doctor-patient relationship. What she needed was for Chen Zhao to help her wholeheartedly when she needed it. This kind of relationship could not be achieved with just 1 or 2 interactions. Paul, help me find out if there's any suitable place to build a manor on the coastline nearby. Buy it for me. Yes, boss. Why does this guy give off such a disgusting vibe? Vestana asked. I don't know. It's too strange. Blitz also looked at Jeff Ryder in confusion. If he met Jeff Ryder at a certain place, it would be difficult for him to make friends. This kind of annoying feeling will affect the initial judgment of others. Of course, a feeling was just a feeling. It would not make people lose their minds. Is he a spiritualist? No, he should be a regular person, Blitz said. Someone must have cast some kind of spell on him. Jeff Ryder's head was covered, so he could not see anything. He only knew that he was in a car. He did not know where he was being taken. Finally they arrived. Jeff Ryder was dragged out of the car, and the head cover was removed. Jeff Ryder realized that he was in front of a circular building. Everything around him was barren. Entering the building, he realized that it was a different world. The inner circle was filled with green vegetation. The main body of the building was circular and looked futuristic. Where is this? Why did you bring me here? Chapter 1766. Hello, Mr. Chun. Hello, may I know who you are? I'm a queso. Klaus ordered a batch of equipment from my boss. We've already sent it to LA. Klaus isn't in LA right now, but he told us to contact you. Oh, where are you now? At the container terminal. The equipment Klaus ordered is all in the containers. I'll go there now. Do I need to call a truck? Yes, 3 trucks. Okay, I'll go there now. I'll call a truck too. Chen Zhao stood up and glanced at Portia, who was a bit full from lunch. Portia, get up and contact 3 trucks. Oh, got it, boss. Are we going out? Yes, to the terminal. Call the truck there too. Boss, what about Jerlin and Larissa? Same. Bring them. Chen Zhao arrived at the terminal. A man with a centipede-like suture scar on his face walked over. The man looked burly and ferocious looking. In any movie, he wouldn't last more than 3 episodes. When Portia saw the man, she shuddered. It was already written on his face. I'm not a good person. You're Mr. Chun, right? Yes, you're a queso? Yes. Are you in charge of installing the equipment too? We're in charge of the installation too. Okay, send the containers to the truck first. You guys follow my car. No problem. After Portia and Chen Zhao returned to the car, Chen Zhao drove. Boss, what equipment did you buy? It's complicated, Chen Zhao said calmly. The car drove further and further away. It took them more than an hour to reach the entrance of the headquarters. Bang! Aduz opened the door. Aduz peeked out from the guard post and immediately opened the door. It was Portia's first time here. She looked around curiously. However, apart from the guard, she didn't see anyone else. The entire headquarters seemed very quiet. Jerlin was very familiar with the place and had already started running around. Mr. Chun, where's the equipment? It's in a warehouse over there. Chen Zhao pointed. Then a queso ordered his people to bring down the equipment. Portia looked around, but didn't see anyone. Boss, what is this place? Portia asked. My company. Chen Zhao replied casually. Company? Portia didn't see any company logo or logo. After circling around the headquarters twice, Portia still couldn't figure out what this place was. However, after circling to the back of the headquarters, Portia suddenly saw a tall tower. The tower was very tall. Its architectural style was very similar to the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but it was much taller. What made Portia feel even more regretful was that the round tower didn't have any entrances. "Boss, what's the use of this tower?" "Beautiful," Chen Zhao answered. Portia looked back at the headquarters, then at the round tower. The two buildings were of completely different styles. It was even weirder when they were put together. "You call this good-looking?" Portia wondered if there was something wrong with Chen Zhao's taste. Portia also noticed that there was an uncomfortable atmosphere in this area. There were dark clouds above his head, and he could clearly see the edge of the dark clouds. Outside the dark clouds, the sun was shining brightly. "Boss, what kind of equipment are those?" "Equipment to process parts," Chen Zhao said casually. Portia didn't believe him. No matter how she looked at it, she couldn't tell where these machines had the function of processing spare parts. In any case, everything here was a little strange. "Go to the front," Chen Zhao said. "The forest behind is very big. It's easy to get lost." Portia glanced at Chen Zhao. After arriving here, Chen Zhao had let Zhilin play by herself. He didn't seem worried that his daughter would get lost. Could it be that she was inferior to little Zhilin? Portia rolled her eyes at Chen Zhao. However, this forest was indeed a bit uncomfortable. She didn't know if it was because of the dark clouds in the sky. Portia just felt pressured. In fact, Portia felt uncomfortable because this area was the activity area of evil spirits. Even at this moment, there were still a few evil spirits moving around in the vicinity. Moreover, if Portia's emotions fluctuated slightly, she might see some ghosts. This was why Chen Zhao had to send her away, so that she wouldn't see the evil spirits. "Boss, I'll go back to the car and rest." Portia thought that it was because she hadn't slept well last night. "There are some empty rooms for the employees. Do you want to sleep? I'll call you when we get back." "No need." Akazuo and his team were very skilled. After an hour, the installation of the equipment was almost complete. Now it was time to test it. "Mr. Chun, we need to open an exit there." Akazuo pointed at the wall. "This way, the cannonball will be fired from this direction, and then fired from the other side, through the ring-shaped sensor." "Okay, I understand." Chen Zhao nodded. "Do you need me to get someone to open an exit for you?" "No," Chen Zhao said. "I'll open it when my people are here." "Okay." Akazuo nodded. Everyone had their own needs. This is the monitor and control panel. What's the highest speed this equipment can test? This is an optical sensor. In theory, there is no upper limit, but in reality, it is impossible to do so. The core of this equipment is the ring sensor. If Mr. Chun is using it to detect large-caliber artillery shells, you need to be careful that the impact will not destroy the ring sensor. Of course, with the current progress of weapon development, most weapons can be detected at their ballistic speed. Chen Zhao nodded. Akazuo spoke in layman's terms. He didn't use too many technical terms, but Chen Zhao could roughly understand. Akazuo didn't ask Chen Zhao why there was a projectile speed testing device here. This place didn't look normal. Who knew what he was going to do? Perhaps this was some kind of research facility. Akazuo knew that the more he knew, the more dangerous it would be. So when it came to such things, he had no intention of asking. "Can the sensor withstand high temperatures?" Chen Zhao asked. Akazuo tilted his head and looked at Chen Zhao. "Mr. Chen, the inner ring of the sensor is tungsten alloy. It can withstand temperatures above 6,000 degrees. As long as you don't create a nuclear explosion here, there won't be a problem." "Okay." Chen Zhao was quite satisfied. "Mr. Chen, this is my name card. If you have any problems, you can call me at any time." "Okay, I understand." 9 Heavens Divine King. Chapter 1767. Knock knock. "Portia, wake up. We can go back now." When Portia opened her eyes, she realized that it was already late. She glanced at the time. It was already past 6. No wonder the sky was completely dark. "Boss, are we going back to Mingyue Villa now?" "Yes, you drive." Chen Zhao took out his phone and called Klaus. "Klaus, the equipment is ready. You can transfer the money to them now. Okay. Oh, how are you in Norway? Have you made any progress? We just entered the forest today. We haven't found anything valuable yet. Keep in touch. Remember to contact me if you need anything. Got it, President. When they reached Minghua Villa, it was already past 9 at night. Portia drove really slowly, even slower than Chen Zhao. Chen, where did you go today? Seeing Chen Zhao and Portia return, Fei Lai immediately pulled Portia aside. Portia, stay for dinner. You haven't eaten yet, right? Miss Fei Lai, I have to go back. It's getting late. Then don't go back. You have to come back tomorrow anyway. Portia thought about it. If she went back now, she would have to eat dinner and wash up before going to bed at midnight. She would have to come back tomorrow. It would indeed be tiring. Just come down. There's a lot of empty rooms, Chen Zhao said casually. Since Chen Zhao had spoken, Portia followed suit and stayed. To be honest, every time she saw Chen Zhao's family having a meal, it would be as sumptuous as celebrating the new year. Boss, what kind of monster is that? Portia looked at the arachne limbs roasting on the charcoal. The limbs were considered small. They were only around 1 meter long. But in Portia's eyes, they were already astonishing. A type of giant crab, Chen Zhao said casually. Eat more and ask less. It's tens of thousands of dollars per kilogram on the market. Portia gulped. Thousands of dollars per kilogram? The limbs on the table were worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Portia felt like the world was spinning around her. If she told others that she ate hundreds of thousands of dollars in one meal, who would believe her? Chen Zhao picked up a limb and broke it off, handing it to Portia. The aroma of crab meat spread out from the limb. That tempting crab meat aroma had yet to enter one's mouth, but it was already irresistible. This is too fragrant, however. Portia realized that Chen Zhao had given her too much. She couldn't finish half of the crab meat anymore. But if he didn't eat it, it would be a waste. On the other hand, Chen Zhao didn't keep the entire limb in his hand for long. He finished it in a few bites. Chen Zhao started eating other things. After a gust of wind, he finished most of the food. Fei Lai, on the other hand, chewed slowly and fed little Jerlin. Little Larissa couldn't eat a big meal for now, so she was still eating some soft food. Little Jerlin, on the other hand, had no inhibitions. She even dared to stuff pebbles into her mouth, let alone food. You guys continue. I'm going down to swim. Portia was not too surprised by Chen Zhao's nocturnal habit. In her eyes, Chen Zhao was just a freak. Everything was different from ordinary people. Of course, she did not forget how ruthless Chen Zhao was when he dealt with the gunman yesterday. In her eyes, Chen Zhao was someone she couldn't afford to offend. To Chen Zhao, the night was the best camouflage. Only at night could Chen Zhao move around freely. Moreover, Chen Zhao dove into the water. Even satellites couldn't detect him. Nowadays, satellites used optical surveillance to monitor the ground. This used extremely clear optical technology to observe the ground from a close distance. Then computers would recognize and repair the image, continuously adjusting the clarity. With America's current technology, satellites could already see people's faces clearly from hundreds of thousands of meters in the sky. The second was metal ripple detection. This technology mainly used submarines, ships, and planes as detection targets. The so-called anti-radar planes and stealth planes were actually used to counter such surveillance equipment. The third is thermal monitoring technology. This kind of monitoring is mainly used in anti-missile systems or tracking missiles. Chen Zhao mainly guarded against the third kind of surveillance technology. Satellites at high altitudes could capture low-altitude or near-Earth heat sources. If Chen Zhao flew too fast, his body would heat up. He would be easily captured by thermal surveillance satellites. He might even be mistaken for a plane or a missile. Therefore, Chen Zhao would mostly move under the sea. This could reduce the heat emitted from his body. Of course, if Chen Zhao wanted to fly high in the sky, he would try to slow down. As long as he didn't heat up, he was basically invisible. Unless someone saw him with the naked eye, he was almost impossible to discover. Chen Zhao could only move at night. If he flew in the sky during the day, he would be discovered too easily. Psionic Team Headquarters. Jeff Ryder was locked in a glass panoramic cell. Jeff Ryder could feel that he was being used as bait. Ever since he'd been brought here, The people here didn't care about him anymore. Without any interrogation, he was directly sent to the cell. Outside the glass cell, a few surveillance cameras were pointed at him. In the control room, Vestana glanced at Brits beside her. "Will he come tonight?" "That's possible," Brits said. Just then the external surveillance flashed a few times. "There's a reaction from the surveillance outside number 3. Another member in the control room reminded. A dozen figures appeared in the surveillance. They were all covered in a layer of black. Only one person's face could be seen clearly. Search for this person's identity. Abram Mehdi, retired soldier killer mercenary. He used to be the boss of the freak gang on the streets of London. Disappeared 2 years ago. Is there any more information? No. Isn't he a spiritualist? There's no evidence that he's one. Then what are those black things around him? The black things were all equipped with all sorts of equipment. Brits, who's going to capture him? It's best if we send a tank. After transforming, a tank is immune to these firearms. Vestana nodded and picked up the microphone. Tank, can you hear me? There's a bunch of weird guys outside. Go capture the one that looks the most human. The rest are up to you. Chapter 1768. The pure metal door of the psionic headquarters rose slowly. Tank stood behind the door. Even in the night, his majestic figure couldn't be hidden. Tank, remember, that person needs to be alive. Tank responded to Vestana's request with an angry roar. In the control room, Vestana looked at Tank's body. How's Tank now? 21% rage. Weight 435 kilograms. Height 348 centimeters. Straight line speed is 28 meters per second. Maximum impact can reach 3,600 kilograms. His arms can hold 2,100 kilograms. Tank is in his normal form now. His rage isn't high, but it should be enough to deal with the things outside, Blitz said. Just then, Tank had already charged into the black figures on the screen. In an instant, Tank's straight-line charge pierced through the black figures' line of defense. The black figures were like liquid, collapsing upon contact with the tank. But soon they regrouped. It seemed that physical attacks were ineffective against them. Tank smashed his fists on the ground. Boom! Waves appeared on the ground. All the black figures within 10 meters were affected. The people who were affected by the shockwave collapsed, and then reformed again. Thud, thud, thud. The other black figures started shooting at Tank. Sparks flew when the bullets hit Tank's body. Although the bullets couldn't penetrate Tank's body, they angered him. 28% rage. Weight 518 kilograms. Height 398 centimeters. Other stats are increasing. As Tank's rage rose, his strength also increased at a terrifying rate. But against these black figures, his attacks seemed to be very weak. These things should be immune to physical attacks. Tank's combat power and destructive power are almost perfect, but his fighting style is too simple. Against enemies that ignore physical attacks, he's very helpless, Blitz said. Vestana nodded. She couldn't help but recall the time in the Tota Snowy Mountains. In the battle between Chun Zhao and Kunkka, Chun Zhao was also best at physical attacks. However, his attacks were more varied. He could attack a single person or a group of people. Thinking of this, Vestana couldn't help but look down at the exposed lines on her arm. She didn't know what to think. At this moment, the situation at the battle scene on the surveillance screen changed. The black figure suddenly approached Tank's body. Then, one of the black silhouettes suddenly grew in size, while the tank's body shrank significantly. However, the figure's body suddenly exploded after swelling to a certain extent. Then he never recovered. Tank's rage level has dropped. Not good, call the tanks back, Blitz shouted. Those black figures will absorb the tank's magic power. At this time, Tank's rage value, after a brief decrease, suddenly rose again. Tank's rage has reached 65%. He's angry. The tank's body suddenly grew to a height of 550 centimeters. But at that moment, the other black figures used the same trick again. However, these black figures had clearly learned their lesson. After absorbing a certain amount of magic power, they stopped absorbing. Every black silhouette was about 400 centimeters tall, and they looked like black giants. Tank was infuriated, but his physical attacks were ineffective against these black figures. The only black figure that had been destroyed so far was because he had absorbed too much magic power. No, we have to call the tanks back and send someone else, Blitz said. He picked up the microphone and said, "Tank, come back and retreat immediately." But at this moment, Tank was like a madman, attacking those black figures in a frenzy. This won't do. Once his rage level rises, he'll lose his mind. Meanwhile, Tank's rage level continued to rise. But he was facing a group of enemies that couldn't be killed. The more it was like this, the angrier he became, and the higher his rage level became. At this time, all the black figures had turned into small giants. They were also extremely strong, although not as strong as Tank. But their combat power had increased by a lot. Tank's bad side is that his combat power is related to his rage level. Once his rage level rises, he'll lose his mind, Blitz said helplessly. When Tank lost his mind in battle, not only would his combat power increase greatly, he would also lose his mind. There were a few times when Tank had lost his mind and attacked his companions. So now, when Tank attacked, the other members of the psionic team wouldn't do anything. And when the psionic team attacked, they wouldn't let Tank attack. They were worried about friendly fire. I really shouldn't have let Tank attack, Vestana said regretfully. Blitz's expression was a bit ugly. The battlefield seemed to have reached a stalemate. In reality, the longer the battle dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for Tank. Tank wasn't a perpetual motion machine. Sooner or later he would run out of energy. But those black figures wouldn't get tired. They wanted to support Tank, but they were worried that Tank would accidentally hurt his companions. Vestana's gaze fell on Matey. Matey had been staying away from the battlefield and didn't participate. Those black figures seemed to be controlled by that guy called Matey, Vestana said. Vestana said, "If we send someone to snipe Matey from afar without intervening in the battle, we might be able to control the situation. But don't you want him alive? Now isn't the time to care about the enemy's life or death. The most important thing right now is to stop this battle. Otherwise, Tank might be injured or even killed. Maybe Samira has a way." Vestana thought about it and nodded. "Then let's try. If it doesn't work, we'll just kill him. He's our enemy anyway. There's no need to pity our enemy. Samira, you're going out now. Your target is that human. Attack from a distance. Bring him back as long as it's within your capabilities. If you can't do it, just kill that human," Vestana ordered into the microphone. Samira didn't go out through the main door. Instead, he stood on the roof of the headquarters and watched the battlefield from afar. "Samira, do you have a way?" "We can try," Samira replied. At the same time, he raised his arms and shouted, "Ancient elf in the rock, please bring my enemy to me." 2 rock snakes emerged from the sand below and charged at Matey. The 2 rock snakes were extremely fast. They were more than 10 meters long and as thick as buckets. Just then, Matey suddenly turned into a tank-like giant. His body instantly grew bigger, and he punched the 2 rock snakes into powder. Chapter 1769. The expressions of the people in the control room, and Samira, who was on the rooftop, changed. "That person also has the same ability as the black figure," said Britz. That Matey didn't have close contact with Tank, but after the black figure absorbed Tank's magic power, Matey has the same ability. It seems that the black figure and Matey are somehow connected. Pondering for a moment, Britz said, "It should be a contract. That Matey isn't a spiritualist. Those black figures must have been summoned by Matey, but there's a real spiritualist in the middle. Those black figures seem to be Matey's evil incarnation." In the psionic team, Britz was known as the Little Encyclopedia of Magic. The number of spells he knew and mastered was innumerable. Soon he could guess most of it. Of course, in the world of magic, there were as many types of spells as the sea of stars. Moreover, new spells were being created and lost every moment. So even Britz couldn't master all the spells. However, Britz could still distinguish their types and characteristics through some details. Britz picked up the microphone and said to Samira, "Samira, change to a magic attack. It's best if it's a direct one." "Mr. Britz, my magic attack can't hit a target that far away," said Samira. "What about confinement?" "That won't work either. Then what other spells do you have that can solve the current problem? As long as they can attack or kill the target. Britz was rather unfamiliar with Sam Myra's Ancient Gods spawn spell. Spawn spells borrowed the power of ancient gods. They were even more ancient than the common demonic spells nowadays. And their circulation was limited. Most spawn spells summon ancient gods that were illusory or physical. I'll try, said Sam Myra. Taking a deep breath, Sam Myra raised his right arm and pointed at Mady from 1,000 meters away. Spirit of the ancient star, hear my call. Send down your divine might for me to use. Just then, 3 balls of light appeared above Mady's head. Each of the 3 balls of light shot out a beam of light at Mady from 3 different angles. Mady reacted quickly and dodged the 3 intersecting beams of light. The 3 beams of light streaked across the ground, leaving 3 scorch marks. In the control room, Blitz shook his head. Sam Myra's spell is quite powerful, but the prelude to the attack is too long, and the trajectory is too obvious. Even a normal person would be able to avoid it. Vestana nodded. There was indeed a huge problem. What do we do now? Vestana asked. Let me do it, Britz said. Vestana thought for a moment. If it wasn't necessary, Britz wouldn't have intervened. After all, Blitz was the deputy leader, and he was an excellent commander. Only by commanding from the rear could he display his greatest effectiveness. There were many people in the psionic ability team who were not weak. However, under such circumstances, it was difficult for him to display his true strength. As a result, Britz had no choice but to act. Vestana suddenly remembered the supernatural society. If they were in his shoes, what would they do? Britz got up and left the headquarters, heading in the direction of Mady. Mady noticed Britz coming over and immediately tensed up. In the end, he was just an ordinary person. He knew that there were strange powers and gods in this world, as well as mysterious and bizarre powers. In Britz's hand was a 36-sided die. As he walked, Britz tossed the die into the air and grabbed it. 29. Britz knew the number even without looking at the face of the die. Looks like white magic is suitable for this battle. Britz used the die to determine the spell to use. Speaking of which, this was also a prophecy spell. It was used to predict what type of spell to use. 2 white balls of light appeared in Britz's hands. Just then, a black figure broke away from the battle and charged at Britz. Britz tossed the white balls of light in his hands. The black figure couldn't dodge in time, and was instantly hit by the white balls. Whoa! The black figure let out a strange cry, and its body suddenly melted into black. Looks like holy magic is very effective against these black figures, Britz muttered to himself. They must be evil clones created by negative emotions. Britz continued walking toward Mady. Knowing that he was no match for Britz, Mady hurriedly ran toward the tank. Britz looked at Mady's figure. Not stupid. The ball of light in Britz's hands turned into a longbow. Britz pulled the bowstring, and a white arrow appeared on the bowstring. The white arrow was aimed at Mady, and the bowstring was lightly released. The white arrow flew straight at Mady. Mady's body was instantly hit, and the arrow pierced through his body. Mady let out a scream of pain, making him wish he was dead. Mady struggled to look at Britz, and raised his hand to control the dozen black figures. Under Mady's control, the black figures began to merge into one, a 10-meter-tall black giant. So much so that even the tank was much smaller than this black giant. The black giant raised his leg and heavily kicked the tank's body. The tank was sent flying and fell towards Blitz. Oh no, Britz exclaimed in shock and hurriedly dodged. Tank landed next to Britz and immediately got up. But his target had changed to Britz. Damn it! Blitz cursed inwardly and hurriedly shouted, Holy light chain! A dozen silver-white chains shot out from the dark night and bound the tank tightly. But right now, Tank was extraordinarily strong, and he kept struggling, trying to break free of the chain's restraints. Britz had to divert even more magic power to restrain Tank. But at that moment, the black giant was already swinging towards Britz. Judgment. Britz had to divert part of his power to deal with the black giant. With a shout from Britz, a holy light sword descended from the sky, piercing through the black giant's chest and nailing him to the ground. But the black giant wasn't destroyed. It struggled to fight again, as if trying to pull out the holy light sword from his chest. Give me another judgment. Brits shouted again, and another holy light sword descended from the sky, piercing through the black giant's body once more. Only then did the black giant kneel on the ground. It was the embodiment of evil. It couldn't endure being pierced by the power of holy light again and again. Brits's face was a bit pale. If it was just Tank or the black giant, he wouldn't have had so much trouble. But it was Tank, who was supposed to be in his camp, who was causing trouble here, forcing him to expend several times more magic power to barely control the situation. But at that moment, a voice came from the darkness. Not bad, but not enough to stop me. Chapter 1770. A strangely dressed black man walked out of the darkness. Mr. Bo Tuesday, seeing Bo Tu's arrival, Matey was overjoyed. Bo Tu pointed his skeletal staff at Matey. The black giant that was pierced by the two holy swords turned into a puddle of dirty water, which surged toward Matey like a tide. The puddle of dirty water poured directly into Matey's mouth. Matey looked at his body in disbelief. He felt an indescribable power filling his body. Brits frowned, clearly sensing that this black man called Bo Tu wasn't easy to deal with. My request is simple. Return Jeff Ride to me, Bo Tu said calmly. What if I refuse? Brits stared at Bo Tuesday. Neither he nor the psionic team would compromise on this matter. Just like how the government wouldn't compromise with terrorists. This was a matter of principle. If they could compromise with Bo Tu once, they would compromise with other enemies in the future. Then I'm sorry. Bo Tu tapped his skeletal staff on the ground, and a patch of darkness spread toward Brits. Brits suddenly moved and jumped onto Tank's shoulder. Holy Angel's radiance. In an instant, the chains binding Tank melted into his skin, and white tattoos began to appear on his skin. The white tattoos instantly made Tank feel an indescribable sense of tranquility, and at the same time, they gave him even purer power. Brits, why are you here? Tank, who had regained his senses, found Brits standing on his shoulder. The mastermind has appeared. Brits pointed at Bo Tuesday. Raise your rage level to the max and charge over. Don't worry about losing your mind. Tank's fists bumped together, and his breathing became heavier. As his rage level continued to rise, his strength and physique became even more exaggerated. Tank's feet stomped on the ground, and he charged forward like a high-speed train. Just then, Matey suddenly stood in front of Bo Tu and threw a punch at Tank's face. Tank met it with a punch of his own. Bang! A dull explosion resounded. Tank actually didn't get the upper hand. In the HQ's surveillance room, Vistana's expression was solemn. It seemed that Brits and Tank alone couldn't guarantee victory. After Bo Tu's arrival, the situation began to tilt in his favor. All psionic team members prepare for battle. All the members in the headquarters perked up. After gathering, they appeared outside the headquarters one after another, including Tank, Brits and Sam Milla. There were a total of 15 people. Bo Tu frowned slightly. It seemed like the situation was more serious than he had imagined. Bo Tu glanced at Tank, who was rampaging through his fallen domain. He was completely unaffected by the corrosion of his fallen domain. Taking a closer look, it should be the holy light blessing on his body. Suddenly, the Tank's feet sank, as if he had fallen into a swamp. The harder the Tank pushed, the more it sank in. At that moment, a dark-skinned man walked over. This man was probably from the Afro-Asian region. He wore a white robe and held a golden-laid scepter in his hand. Anubis, please lend me your army. I will bring you a gift of death. The sand on the ground billowed, and tall Anubis warriors with dog heads and human bodies stood up from the sand. He was a Merstein from Egypt. He called himself Anubis Shaman. A large number of black figures also appeared in Bo Tu's dark domain. The black figures and the Anubis warriors were engaged in a chaotic battle. For a moment, it was difficult to determine the victor. A ball of flame shot out from the darkness and attacked Bo Tu's back. Bo Tu immediately swept up the black substance to block the flame. The sneak attacker failed to land a hit, so he immediately bounced back and disappeared into the night. The shadow assassin Singh was also a difficult opponent. Ancient King, please show your invincibility and accept the worship of the world. A pair of huge arms formed by energy appeared beside Sam Milla. Sam Milla did not have enough magic power. He could only summon a pair of the ancient king's arms at most. Botu's expression was grave. He did not expect such a difficult organization to exist in North America. He had thought that he could do whatever he wanted in North America alone. He did not expect to suffer in a magical desert like this. At this moment, he had to admit that he could not break into the psionic team's headquarters alone. Botu looked around, and suddenly retracted his fallen domain. "Matey, let's go!" With that, Botu controlled the black substance to wrap around Matey, and quickly left the battlefield. "Don't chase," Brits ordered. This was their home ground. But if they were to chase Botu, who knew what kind of trap Botu had prepared for them? Botu was so powerful that none of them could fight against him alone. Once they were in danger, it was very likely that Botu would defeat them one by one. Return to the headquarters. The psionic team returned to the headquarters. Everyone had a grave expression on their faces. They could clearly feel Botu's powerful strength. No one would be able to fight Botu alone. Everyone gathered in the conference room, which was very depressing. After all, everyone could feel the pressure. It was different from the Stone of Slaughter incident last time. Tamamo no Mei's appearance gave them the feeling that she was going to destroy the world. They felt that they were not fighting against an enemy, but against nature. Therefore, no one would feel dejected. The difference between their levels was too great. That was what everyone knew. However, Botu's strength was predictable. They could clearly feel the difference if they were alone. Even if they worked together, they could not guarantee that they could defeat him. Botu could attack and defend at will, which made everyone feel uncomfortable. Moreover, as long as Botu did not attack and hid in the dark, he could make them feel pain. No one could defend forever, but Botu could hide forever. Vestana looked at Brits. "Brits, what do you want to say?" After pondering for a long time, Blitz said, "We can't just passively defend. We have to take the initiative to attack, and track down the whereabouts of that spirit controller. Then we have to capture or eliminate him. Otherwise, we'll be in more trouble." Vestana thought about it and asked, "Why does that wizard have to save Jeff Ride?" "Probably because he has some kind of contract with Jeff Ride, so he has to save him. Of course, it could also be that he lent his power to Jeff Ride, so he needs to get his power back. What if we kill Jeff Ride?" Chapter 1771. No. I can't confirm their true relationship right now. It's possible that he wants to kill Jeff Ryder. If we kill Jeff Ryder, we might fulfill his wish. Vestana's eyes flashed. "But," she said meaningfully, "do we really have to fight him to the death?" Everyone's eyes fell on Vestana. A few of them were still in a daze. "Find his tracks," Vestana said. "Don't do anything yet." In the morning, Portia walked out of the villa after washing up. She had to admit that staying here for a night gave her an indescribable sense of comfort. She didn't need to turn on the air conditioner. As long as she opened the windows at night, the sea breeze would bring her a refreshing feeling. It wasn't cold, but it wasn't hot either. The sound of the waves wasn't ear-piercing either. Instead, it made her fall asleep even faster. Portia suddenly realized that breakfast was already prepared. It was as sumptuous as ever. Had Chen Zhao and Fei Lai woken up early to prepare breakfast? Portia was in disbelief. Impossible. Was there a chef in the villa? Otherwise, how could they prepare such sumptuous food every day? She didn't believe that Chen Zhao and Fei Lai would wake up. As expected, they didn't wake up until 8. They were clearly not the type to sleep early and wake up early. Both of them got out of bed and washed up. Then, they sat down at the breakfast table to eat. It was as if it was natural to wake up and find a table full of sumptuous breakfast. "Portia, aren't you going to eat?" Chen Zhao glanced at her. Portia had been looking at them strangely the entire morning. "Boss, do you have a chef in your house?" "Yeah. Don't you know?" Who knew? She'd never seen one before. "Where is he? How come I've never seen him before?" "Oh, I'll introduce you guys when I'm free." "Isn't he in the villa now?" "No. He left after making breakfast." "What about lunch and dinner? Why are you asking so many questions?" "I'm curious." "Don't be too curious. In movies, curious people always die faster." Portia shuddered. Had she asked something she shouldn't have? "Portia, don't listen to Chen's nonsense." "Alright, actually the head chef is very ugly, so he doesn't want to appear in front of outsiders. Plus, he's weird. If he sees someone prettier than him, he'll get jealous. Then you'll disappear without a trace. Maybe you'll appear at our table. Portia gulped and Fei Lai rolled her eyes. Do you really have to scare Portia? Portia was completely speechless at Chen Zhao's evil boss. However, Chen Zhao's mysterious tone made Portia even more curious. She had a feeling that they were hiding something. Was it really as Chen Zhao said? Chen Zhao looked like he was serious, but also like he was joking. For a moment, Portia couldn't tell if it was real or fake. Besides, Fei Lai was so pretty. If the chef was jealous, Fei Lai should be the one who should be the most jealous, right? But every time she came to the Bright Moon Villa, as long as it was mealtime, it would be very sumptuous. That was illogical. After breakfast, Fei Lai went to the coastal rescue team. Portia, on the other hand, was reading a magazine in the yard. Chen Zhao was working out. In Portia's eyes, Chen Zhao was a fitness maniac. Whenever he was free, he would work out. Kalon came and started training with Chen Zhao again. Kalon realized that no matter how fast he increased his speed, Chen Zhao could always keep up. This made him a bit discouraged. Chen Zhao had said that he was a strength-enhancing type, not a speed-enhancing type. But an amateur like Chen Zhao was actually stronger than a professional. This was a blow to Kalon. It was like swimming, but it was faster than sprinting. If it was a professional sports competition, it would have been impossible for this to happen. Mr. Chen, how can you be so fast? It's not that I'm fast. It's because my level is higher than yours, Chen Zhao said. You've played online games before, right? A level 10 newbie and a level 100 player. Even the lowest stats of the level 100 player are higher than the highest stats of the level 10 player. So the difference between us is 10 times? Maybe the level difference is 10 times, but the stats are more than that. Okay, Kalon said. I'll surpass you one day, at least in terms of speed. Mr. Chen, I have classes in the afternoon. Then let's call it a day, Chen Zhao said. After Kalon left Mingyue Villa, he hurried to school. When he reached the school gate, a stranger suddenly walked over. Hello, sir, the stranger called out. Kalon turned around and looked at the stranger in confusion. The stranger wore a cap, so he couldn't see his face clearly. He could only vaguely see that his face was covered in stubble. His clothes were a bit dirty. It seemed like he hadn't changed in days. At the same time, there was a pungent smell on his body. Kalon took a step back instinctively. Hello, who are you? The stranger looked up. Are you a speed-enhancing spiritualist? Kalon was stunned. Who was this person? How did he know his identity? Was he also a spiritualist? I have something to talk to you about, the stranger said. Can I borrow some of your time? Kalon remembered that he'd met someone from the psionic team last time. So Kalon was instinctively on guard. He wasn't sure of the stranger's intentions, nor did he know his identity. Kalon wouldn't obediently cooperate with the stranger's request. I don't know you. Mr. Kalon, you don't want to fight here, right? The stranger said. Kalon frowned. Was he threatening him? Who exactly are you? I just want to talk to you. Of course, the way you talk depends on you, the stranger said. Kalon thought about it. As a spiritualist, he obviously couldn't expose his identity so easily. But from the stranger's tone, he didn't seem to mind exposing himself. He was at the school gate, and there were people coming and going. It was indeed inconvenient to fight. Where to? To my car. The stranger pointed at his car. Kalon thought about it, and followed the stranger into the car. But the moment he got in, a black liquid suddenly appeared in the depths of the car. Kalon immediately realized that it was a trap. But before he could react, the black liquid started absorbing his magic the moment it came into contact with Kalon's skin. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 1772. Amy and Ceylon sat before Kalon's bed. Just then the door was pushed open. Seeing Chen Zhao come in, Amy was surprised. Mr. Chen. Chen Zhao was also surprised. Amy, hello. Did Ng Elite ask you to come? Amy asked. Yes, Ng Elite is on a business trip. So he asked me to see if there's anything I can help with, Chen Zhao said. I don't know who my son offended. He was dumped at the school gate for no reason. Actually, If Chen Zhao hadn't heard it from Elite, he wouldn't have known that Kalon was Angelite's son. But thinking carefully, both of them had awakened special bloodlines. And they were both agility-type spiritualists. Chen Zhao hadn't thought about this at all. If he hadn't seen Amy and Ceylon, he would have almost forgotten about it. Right now, Amy's face was full of bitterness. An Elite, whom she could rely on, had gone on a business trip again. As a woman, she didn't know what to do. Can you tell me about Colin's condition? Chen Zhao walked to the bed. Mr. Chen, the doctor said that Kalon isn't injured. The reason for his coma isn't clear yet. Chen Zhao suddenly felt that Ceylon had been staring at him. Chen Zhao looked up at her and smiled. Ceylon, do you still remember me? Yes, Ceylon said, nodding. You're really good. Chen Zhao touched Ceylon's head. Seeing the toolbox Chen Zhao had put down, Amy asked, Mr. Chen, are you a doctor? I'm a medical professor at the LA branch, Chen Zhao answered. Oh, I see. Amy relaxed. Since he was a medical professor, there was definitely no problem. He was also Angelite's superior. Chen Zhao pulled Colin's wrist. Kalon had used up a lot of his magic. Had he fought with someone, he wasn't physically injured, but he'd used up too much magic, so he wasn't very energetic. Amy, I need to perform acupuncture on Kalon. Is that okay? Chen Zhao asked. Acupuncture? Can you wake Kalon up? Yes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chen. Amy nodded. Do you need us to leave? No. Chen Zhao shook his head. He'll be fine soon. Chen Zhao flipped Colin over and pulled open his shirt. Afterwards, he began to insert silver needles into Kulan's body. One of the needles was inserted into his qi si. Chen Zhao flicked the silver needle in his sea of qi with his finger. Then Colin's body suddenly trembled. Don't move, Chen Zhao said. There's a needle on your back. You don't want it to pierce your body, right? Amy's face was filled with surprise. She didn't expect Chen Zhao's acupuncture to be so effective. In the beginning, Chen Zhao said that it would be healed soon. She was still in disbelief. The doctor from the nearby hospital said that he still needed to be observed, and his current condition was unknown. In her heart, she was more inclined to the hospital's explanation. He didn't expect Chen Zhao to do what he said. He said it would only take a while. And sure enough, Kellen woke up in the blink of an eye. Kalon listened to Mr. Chen. Don't move. Mom. Colin didn't expect his mother to be here. Chen Zhao put away the needles and patted Colin's shoulder. It's done. Amy ran over excitedly. Who did you offend, Colin? Are you a member of some gang? Did you get into some kind of trouble? Parents were all like that. They always thought that their child had gotten into trouble outside. Did he offend a gang? Did he participate in gang activities? Amy, Kalon might be a bit malnourished. He's slightly anemic and didn't rest properly after a high-intensity workout. That's why he's in a coma, Chen Zhao said. Is that so? Amy looked at Kalon. Mom, I don't even know what happened. Why am I in the hospital? Really? Amy, you should trust your child. Fine, I was thinking too much. Chen Zhao took out a piece of paper. Amy, this is my phone number. Call me if you have any problems. Of course, I hope you never call me. I know. Thank you, Mr. Chen. Kalon, let me check your body again, Chen Zhao said. Amy, can you give Kalon some privacy? Of course, if you want to keep watching him take off his pants, I don't mind either. Fine. Amy, help Kalon get discharged. Our company reimburses family medical expenses, but Kalon probably doesn't need it. Amy had a good impression of Chen Zhao. Because of this, she changed her opinion of Angelite's work. In comparison, Ang Elite had a good relationship with his colleagues. Last time, in order to help Ang Elite, they'd all gone to San Jose to explain. Chen Zhao's boss was also very kind and friendly. He'd even come to help Kalon. Oh, I'll treat you guys to dinner tonight, Chen Zhao said. Mr. Chen, that's not good. You guys definitely didn't prepare dinner. Neither did I. It's settled. After Amy and Ceylon left, Chen Zhao changed his expression. Kalon, who did you meet? You look like you've been through a big battle. Mr. Chen, you know my mother and father. Your father, Ang Elite, is my subordinate. What? Kalon was shocked. Wait, isn't my father working for the supernatural organization? You're the president of the organization? Kalon didn't expect that the person he'd been in contact with was the president of the organization. You already knew? No, I just found out, Chen Zhao said. Tell me, what happened to you today? Kalon told him the whole story. You don't know that person at all? I'm sure I don't know him at all. I don't even know why he's looking for me. Since the other party is also a spiritualist. He either found you through a spiritualist that you know or through some channel that sells information about local spiritualists. But I still don't understand why he did this. He absorbed my magic, but what can he do with it? I don't know, but they definitely have a purpose. Will they hurt my family? My mom and sister? Probably not. Of course, don't go out these 2 days. Stay home and call me if you have any problems. Okay, got it. Change your clothes and I'll treat you guys to dinner. Kalon had just taken off his pants when Amy suddenly pushed open the door. Mom, I'm changing. Amy rolled her eyes. Fine. It's not like I haven't seen it before. Mr. Chen, is Kalon okay? Other than being hurt by you while changing, everything else is fine. 9 Heavens, Divine Emperor. Chapter 1773. Mr. Chen, this restaurant is very expensive, right? Mom, Mr. Chen is very rich. Shut up. Amy glared at Kalon. Amy, this restaurant is mine, so it doesn't matter. Fine. However, Amy put the menu down again after picking it up. Every single dish on the menu scared her. The cheapest dish costs more than $200. Chen Zhao could understand Amy's current feelings. Kalon and Silon were heartless. Silon was young and didn't know how to save money for Chen Zhao. Kalon was too familiar with Chen Zhao and knew that Chen Zhao was rich. Amy, on the other hand, ate with trepidation. She didn't even taste the dishes before her. All she could think about was how much the dishes cost. Amy, if you don't mind the dishes, you can treat me next time. I can't afford such expensive food. Then treat me to your house. Fine. After dinner, Amy brought Kalon and Silon home. After the family left, Chen Zhao's expression darkened. All the members of the supernatural organization had left. Only he stayed in L.A. This was like entrusting the family of the association members to Chen Zhao. But now Kalon had been attacked. To Chen Zhao, this was a huge dereliction of duty. When Chen Zhao returned home, his expression was still tense. Chen, what happened? Fei Lai asked, concerned. Kalon was attacked today. Does he have enemies? I don't think so. More importantly, Kalon is Angelite's son. Huh? He's Angelite's son? Fei Lai was surprised too. She didn't expect him to be Angelite's son. When they first met, Chen Zhao had taught Kalon a lesson. He'd even sent Kalon to the hospital. Who's the culprit? I don't know. He doesn't have any enemies. He just awakened not long ago. Oh, he probably awakened after I sent him to the hospital. Fei Lai burst into laughter. It was really like a flood drowning a Dragon King's temple. They didn't know each other. Other than you, does he know any other spiritualists? I intend to investigate this as well. Today, Kalon provided me with 2 spiritualists that he knows. One of them is more, and the other should be an idol spiritualist. Crumb up. Reminded by his companion, Crumb put his palms together. Akalanatha, Treasure Elephant King Kong. In an instant, the golden light shone brightly, and the entire dark space was enveloped by the brilliance. Crumb transformed into an 8-armed Vajra elephant. This Vajra was dignified and angry. Each of its 8 arms held a magic tool. Crumb was an outer disciple of Buddhism. What he cultivated was the Vajra Dharma form, not the Buddhist Dharma. This was mainly because one needed to abide by the precepts in order to cultivate the Dharma. However, the Vajra Dharma idol was also a secret technique of the Zen sect. Without a certain amount of luck, one could not cultivate it. The entry requirements for the Vajra Dharma idol were also extremely stringent. What is a Vajra? One must have a compassionate Buddha's heart and an Asura's killing intent. To put it bluntly, Vajra was a Buddhist fighter. Buddha only talked about compassion for everything. And Vajra was compassionate when it was time to be compassionate. And when it was time to kill, it was time to kill. As the saying goes, one Bodhi, one Asura. Crumb waved his 8 arms, and a golden light shot towards the ceiling above his head. In an instant, The filth hiding in the shadows of the ceiling fell to the ground. It was like rotten meat that had been stewed. Done, let's call it a day. Masa clapped his hands and looked at Crumb. Crumb, you can put away your technique. Crumb was still holding the Vajradharma idol. He frowned and looked around. My mind reading is telling me that the danger is not over yet. There seems to be an even greater danger, Crumb said. Mind reading was a Buddhist technique. In scientific terms, it was a sixth sense. However, a sixth sense was an innate intuition. On the other hand, his heart connection could be obtained through cultivation. The perception of a normal spiritualist was sharper than that of a normal person. And after cultivating mind reading, it wasn't the perception that was improved, but the ability to predict. Especially when it came to certain things that were about to happen. Mind reading would give the user a strong signal. Do you really feel danger? Masa trusted Crumb's mind reading. Yes. Suddenly, a voice came from the darkness. You're Crumb? Startled, Crumb and Masa turned to look at the darkness. Who are you? I'm Colin's elder, Chenjiao said. Colin's elder? How come I've never heard Colin mention you? Crumb looked at the figure in the darkness suspiciously. But even with his Buddhist technique, he couldn't see the figure in the darkness. When he'd first met Colin had said that he was just an idle spiritualist. He'd just awakened and didn't know anyone. Now Colin's elder had appeared. Colin was attacked today. What? Who did it? Crumb cried out in shock. I want to know too, Chenjiao said. Have you told anyone about Colin's identity as a spiritualist? No, Crumb said without hesitation. His Zen mind was the immovable wisdom king, and he practiced the Vajradharma idol. If he had any self-doubt, the Vajradharma idol would collapse instantly. But just then Masa, who was standing behind Crumb, was strangely calm. He even seemed to be avoiding Chenjiao's gaze. Chenjiao happened to see Masa's actions. Chenjiao suddenly appeared before Masa. Do you know? I don't know. Masa avoided Chenjiao's gaze, not daring to meet Chenjiao's. Sir, let's talk. Crumb reached out to pull Chenjiao's shoulder. But Chenjiao turned around and waved. Crumb felt an unparalleled power burst forth from Chenjiao's arm. Crumb's tall body was sent flying. He crashed through the wall and landed on the ground outside the building. Crumb vomited a mouthful of blood and stood up with difficulty. He was now empowered by the diamond gem elephant, which could even stop a speeding car. But facing this person, he'd been sent flying with one move. Crumb couldn't believe that the young kid had such a terrifying elder. But Crumb didn't have time to think so much. It seemed to be related to Masa. Plus, he had a close relationship with Masa, so he couldn't just watch. Looking at Masa, Chenjiao said calmly, Tell me what happened. Or maybe you were the one who attacked Colin. It wasn't me. It really wasn't me. Masa hurriedly waved his hands. The person in front of him had sent Crumb, who was at his peak, flying with a single punch. This kind of strength was definitely not something he could fight against. Masa was also terrified. He didn't expect the kid to have such an elder supporting him. Chapter 1774. Suddenly, Crumb broke through the wall again and charged in. Crumb's huge body stood there, his 8 arms forming 4 hand seals. Telekinesis. Chenjiao suddenly felt his body freeze for a moment. It was like when he'd encountered Black Dragon in the Tower of Trial. Black Dragon had frozen him. However, Crumb wasn't as strong as Black Dragon. Every time Black Dragon froze Chenjiao, he could attack or dodge Chenjiao's attack. But Crumb couldn't do anything. Instead, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Buddhism's telekinesis and Taoism's body freeze were actually similar spells. They both used their own powers to suppress the opponent. But Crumb had never seen such a terrifying opponent. Not only was his telekinesis ineffective, but it was also broken by the opponent. Instead, he'd been heavily injured. Crumb only felt powerless. Chenjiao glanced at Crumb. If you don't want me to kill you, you better behave. Masa, who was closer to Chenjiao, almost peed his pants. What about you? Are you going to talk or not? I'll talk. Masa said hurriedly. Masa raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. But the next moment, Masa suddenly disappeared. Then, he appeared beside Crumb and grabbed him. The next moment he disappeared again. Masa, you, run. If we don't run, he'll kill us. Did you really do the attack on Kalan? Run first, Masa said. I'll tell you later. Masa was an extremely rare spatial spell, and he was best at telekinesis. If he wanted to run, no one could stop him. In just 3 or 4 seconds, Masa had already escaped 1 kilometer with Crumb. Stop! Stop! Danger! Crumb suddenly yelled. What? Boom! Suddenly something fell from the sky. A huge impact spread out in all directions. Masa and Crumb were both sent flying by the impact. They both spat out a mouthful of blood. Looking back, they saw Chen Zhao walk out of the huge hole. Seems like my temper has gotten better recently. I didn't kill you too directly. Wait. Cough cough. Masa spat out another mouthful of blood. Masa was in great pain both physically and mentally. His teleportation had always been successful. But this time, he was defeated by Chen Zhao. The dark lava engulfed Masa and Crumb. My patience is running out. I'll talk. I sold information. Someone wanted to buy information on all the enhanced type spiritualists in the city, and I sold it to him, including information on Quran. Crumb looked at Masa in astonishment. He had known Masa for a few years, but he didn't know that Masa had this kind of business as well. Who bought it? Chen Zhao asked. It's a black man. He's dressed very strangely. There's a very annoying aura about him. Chen Zhao raised an eyebrow. A black man with a disgusting aura. His contact information. He showed up in front of me. I don't have his number, Masa said. Chen Zhao looked at Masa. Your job of selling information is a failure. Masa was crying out in pain as the dark magma continued to tighten. I'll help you find him. I'll help you find him, Masa said painfully. The restraints on Masa and Crumb disappeared, and they were thrown onto the ground. Good. Don't make me wait too long, Chen Zhao said. All right. Don't let Quran know about us. It's our little secret, okay? Crumb didn't know what to say to Masa. If it were him, if his juniors were hurt, he would do the same. He would do the same thing. But Masa was his friend too. He obviously didn't want things to become irreversible. Fortunately, Chen Zhao didn't plan on killing them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to kill him even if they had 10 lives. 3 days later. Not good. The situation wasn't good. Masa and Crumb didn't know if they didn't check. But after checking they found out. Since the day Masa sold the information, 13 spiritualists had been attacked. On the first day, including Quran, 3 spiritualists were attacked. On the second day, 7 more were attacked. On the third day, 3 were attacked. Moreover, all the spiritualists who had been attacked had been provided by Masa. If this news were to leak out, Masa would definitely die without a complete corpse. Most of these spiritualists weren't alone. For example, Quran thought that he was a newbie. But in the end, a single person behind him could kill both of them. Masa panicked now too. He'd been selling information for a long time. But he'd never made such a big mess. More than 10 spiritualists had been attacked. If the relatives and friends of these 10 spiritualists all came knocking on their door, then Masa would really be dead. Masa, we have to find the person who bought your information. Otherwise, the situation will really go out of control, Crumb said seriously. Crumb said solemnly. And it's been 3 days, and there's still no news. That person has a very bad temper. I know, but I have no choice. I want to find that person too. Oh, is there anyone who hasn't been attacked in the information you sold? Crumb asked. Masa's eyes brightened. Oh, I remember now. There's one more person who hasn't been attacked. Go watch that person immediately. Ms. Vestana, that guy is crazy. Are you sure you want to meet him alone? Brits asked. It's okay. Don't worry about me. Vestana glanced at the half-finished building in front of her. Let me go with you. No need. I'm more confident in persuading him alone. Brits thought for a moment. Ms. Vestana, I'll give you 30 minutes. If you don't come out in 30 minutes, I'll bring people to attack. Vestana walked in. Inside the building, Bo2 was on the first floor. Bo2 was on the first floor with Matey standing beside him. Miss, do you know what you're doing? Bo2 said in a creepy voice. Even though it was daytime, Vestana felt a chill down her spine. Mr. Bo2, I'm a normal person. I know, I can tell, Bo2 said calmly. But if I want to kill someone, it has nothing to do with whether you're a normal person or not. Mr. Botu, you've caused quite a commotion in L.A. these days. In the African plains, a lion can eat whatever it thinks is its prey, Botu said. But lions have their own pride too. Otherwise, they'll also become hyenas' prey, Vestana said. Vestana said, your goal is nothing more than to find Jeff Ryder. I can give it back to you. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.